Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae, also known as Wildbow. You can read Worm in its original format by visiting parahumans.wordpress.com or donate to Wildbow's Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. This story isn't intended for young or sensitive readers. Readers who are on the lookout for trigger warnings are advised to give Worm a pass. For a complete list, check the description for all of Worm's trigger warnings.
Starting now. I got jalapeno popper dust all in my fingers again. Good morning, Brockton Bay. Keep an eye on the sky and your foot on the ground because there's a monster running around.
Oh, nice.
Hey,
I like the rhyme.
That
was
yeah.
nice.
You know,
Add it
this
in.
just top of my head. Literally, I come into these every time. A blank slate.
I know. I always ask if you've ready, if you've got one, and you always say yes, and I assume you do. But
No, I literally go Zen state. I am an empty vessel.
I'm sorry, did you say Zen state?
sorry,
We'd like
did you say
to
vessel?
transition to our sponsor, Zencastr, who, I'm just kidding, Michael will do that.
Yeah.
actually,
You
though.
also
Actually,
an empty
though.
vessel?
smooth.
Beautiful.
Welcome back, everybody.
Thank you, Jacob.
We're in Arc 18. How's it feel?
It's pretty
Wow.
crazy.
It feels like they're getting shorter. That are just like the rhythm of reading has gone up.
Really? I can't say I feel the same.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel that it's getting shorter. I just got to say, yes, Queen, she ate that.
All right, and that's the podcast. Michael, play us out.
Beautiful.
Oh, man.
Wouldn't be right
This
if we
is-
didn't start with one of those. But let's move on.
Yeah, let's. Yeah.
Yeah, we should. Thanks for listening, everybody. Let's jump in here to Arc 18. We'll try to jump in here. Long arc. Lots going on. We're coming hot off of the Travelers interlude arc, which was pretty fun. Now we're back with our main cast of characters as they attempt to take down Noelle
Mm-hmm.
and Kidna.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead.
Did
Let's
you just
dive
say
in.
Echidna?
I did. It was a mispronunciation. Thanks for pointing it out.
No worries.
Appreciate that.
We are
Michael,
nothing
cut
if
that.
not pedantic.
That's true. We are. Hannah, would you like to lead us off with some chapter summaries?
Yeah, for sure. So we do have 8 chapters and 5 interludes in this arc, which is a lot of fun. We all know how much we love interludes. But yeah, no, starting us off, I'm going to probably do these one-off chapter by chapter. And then once we get into the big fight, I will group them up a little bit more.
Good
So
strategy.
our very first chapter, the group learns about Noelle, has a trip to the fancy rich people doctor, and Dinah is detoxing. She and Taylor have a little bit of a conversation, get some math going. Yeah. Actually, I'm also going to group this with chapter 2 because why not? Chapter 2, Dinah gets taken home and the group begins to make a battle plan. Ballistic leaves in utter disgust, and we find out that Vista has been kidnapped. So it's a good jumping off point. If listeners, if you don't remember, listeners, readers, even myself have to be reminded. If you don't remember, before the Travelers arc, we murdered Coil.
Pop
So
a cap in
we
his
are
ass.
now dealing with the aftermath of that particular choice, and all the things that come with it.
Is it confirmed that Coil kind of left Noelle as a safeguard, or was it just that
I
he
feel
left
like
her
it.
alone for so long that things went to shit?
No. He had his phone out so that she could hear the
she heard the whole
conversation, so that she
conversation.
would tear herself out. As a
That's
last
right.
fuck
That's
you.
right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
she knows the Undersiders are to pay for taking away a
That's right.
potential
That's right.
avenue for her to get home.
I do just love the quiet, silent terror of the first arc where they realize, and throughout this all too, Taylor is still blind, which is just another added layer to it as well. But the quiet terror of it, right? So rather than Leviathan coming and it's going to be like a big natural disaster, Noelle is like a ticking bomb, but you don't know how much longer you have on the timer.
Right.
And it's a nice little undertone. Like while all the nice stuff with Dinah is happening, it's a nice undertone to have as a constant reminder that I think Wildbow does a good job with Taylor's narration of bringing us back to that moment of, okay, this is what's happening. Like this, we need to hurry up because at sunrise, you have that timer kind of at sunrise. That's when things are going to go down.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very interesting, very well written, I think. Very engaging chapter.
The tension that gets built as Dinah is like talking about what's to come and the threat at sunrise, because in the back of your mind, you're like, I mean, okay, she's big, she's powerful, but I mean, we've got the Triumvirate and some heavy hitters that go toe to toe with Endbringers. So like, how bad can she be? We just dealt with the Slaughterhouse 9, but it's like kind of, it's like lingering there that she's just beyond what you're expecting.
Yeah. I reading this time, I definitely felt I was like not really impressed with the threat of Noelle at first, but as characters kind of keep hammering home, hey, don't send your big hitters here because she will take them and use them.
Yeah.
And that by the end of the arc, I was convinced like, wow, Noelle is definitely a terrifying threat. Especially once you finally see her kind of in action. That's
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the seeing her in action that really solidifies just how scary she is.
Yeah.
Because before that, I mean, we know loosely what she does from the Traveler's interlude, but it's never really explained how she makes the clones or where they came from. So now with Ballistic giving some more details and describing it, it's pretty terrifying sounding. I do love Ballistic's whole interaction with them, him being like, it's like, yeah, we just got to kill her. And everybody's like, whoa, wait, kill her? You want to kill her? And he's like, just him shaking his head, walking away, just going, you guys just don't get it, do you? It's one of the most ominous little bits of this, and I am here for it.
I really am surprised they didn't I'm with him. I don't understand why they didn't,
Yeah.
She is
well,
a
something that like Tattletale is trying to push home as well is that she's trying to convince everyone that Noelle is an S-level threat. Like she is on the same, she's on the same shelf as the Endbringers. Like she is as scary. She is going to be as difficult to fight. And the question of like, well, we don't even know if we can beat her potentially is like, no one really is. It doesn't feel like anyone's really listening. And so Ballistic kind of in this moment of being like, no, like we need to kill her. Like you don't get it. It does fall into kind of that same category of like, no one's really listening. No one really understands how bad of a scenario we are in or we're approaching. And so like, it gives you that, I never probably referenced this before, but like in the Chernobyl show, the idea of like this impending doom that no one believes in or no one thinks is happening. And, we know as the audience that like bad shit is about to go down, but no one seems to understand the gravity of it. And that's like, it sets a great tone for this arc.
Oh, Noelle's free? Not great, not terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we have to deal with that. Like,
I do like Ballistic's line about where he's like, well, I'm not going to fight her. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Well, because if she gets me, you're all dead.
Yeah.
Right. And not all of, maybe all of the Slaughterhouse 9 are considered S-level threat, singular, as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
But, I would imagine that, like, Crawler is probably up there as, like, himself an S-level threat. Or, maybe Siberian. Because, like, for those two specifically, what do you do?
Yeah.
And it's odd that, like, they get S-level threats. And Noelle is kind of very similar in a vibe to Crawler, hence why he tried to recruit her. So, I don't understand. Like, I got it first. I was like, okay, you know, obviously the Endbringers are like your S-level threats. Like, that's the ceiling, and you come down from there. But then I was like, wait, no. Also, the Slaughterhouse 9 are S-level. So why the hell wouldn't you consider Noelle S-level?
Yeah.
So at
Well-
first I was on board, like, okay, I get a lot of the reasoning. I'm not that upset about it. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, no, there are other people. There are other,
Well, yeah,
parahumans
'cause
that are
they-
considered
Yeah,
S
they
level. So what the
mention
heck?
that there are 6 current S-level threats that are active in the world, right? Because it's the 3 Endbringers, plus the Slaughterhouse 9, Nilbog, and
Oh,
Sleeper.
that's right.
Mm-hmm.
So Nilbog we've met. Obviously, the Slaughterhouse 9 we've met. Sleeper, the one being that we haven't met. And so I think part of it is just it's the reluctance to name that something truly is that bad, right? Like, especially from an outside perspective, you're being told by untrustworthy individuals that something is really dangerous. Do you immediately jump to the nuclear option,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that while it's frustrating because we're in Taylor's perspective
Yeah.
and we do know how dangerous she is, I don't think it's unreasonable that the heroes are like, we'll start at A and go up from there.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
I was going to say
Yeah.
we're kind of dancing around the conversation that Tattletale has with Miss Militia, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't really happen until later, though. We're kind of
Yeah.
skipping ahead to that, I believe.
Yeah.
Which
Just a smidge.
Yeah.
is so dumb because, once again, we are seeing things from Taylor's perspective. I get that. But consistently, the Undersiders have come to the heroes and gone, hey, this is an issue. Maybe you should deal with that. Help us deal with that. And they're like, no, we're going to choose to be unhelpful, actually. In fact, we'll do the opposite of help sometimes. And you know what? The Undersiders get proven time and time again
They
that
really
they are
have.
correct. So, like, given the track record
Right.
of what they do, like how they approach you, when have the Undersiders come to you and been wrong? Like, there are times where
Yeah.
they screw with you, but that's like in open combat or like, some sort of ruse like that. The rest of these times have been them meeting up. Like, everybody's been like, yes, I am on board to meet up. They meet up, they say their thing, and then they're like, nah, we're not going to believe you. It's like, when have I been wrong? Name one time. You
Name one
can't.
time. Name one time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it just plays to the overall like kind of theme within the story of why Taylor is so distrusting of the protectorate and the government. Essentially, it's just they're in inaction to do things when things need to be done.
Well, I mean, it is understandable though. Like you're dealing with a governmentally funded agency that has rules and has, paperwork and like has higher ups to answer to. And so like, yeah, like you said, Nick, that you can't just come out of the box being like, oh, the Undersider said that this is an S-level threat. Okay, cool. Like, man the nukes. Like, we obviously like it would be incredibly problematic to just trust the villains without question. So I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense. It's just like the bureaucracy of it is very obnoxious.
Yeah. We are skipping ahead a bit, though.
We are. Thank you.
Because,
Thank you, Nick.
we were only at the first part where they all decide to go to the doctor. The
Right,
doctor
right,
who
right.
is a bit too nice, who Taylor
Yeah.
worries at first might be the same doctors that
Yep.
the Empire 88 used.
Yep.
I don't think it is.
Yep. I don't think so either.
Yeah,
It just
they're
gives me the
looking for
vibe
Med
of, like-
Hall, I think was the company.
It's just so funny. The conversation.
At all.
She's like, Taylor's like, I didn't kidnap her. I want you to know, like, I'm not the bad guy here. And she's like, oh,
She's
don't
like,
worry.
I
We
don't
wouldn't
care.
have treated you any differently. It's like, wait, what?
Damn it.
Yeah. So love
Yeah.
the coming in there and the lady just being like, okay, what's wrong with you? Like not batting an eyelash at the villains. Well,
Yeah.
nurse, there's 3 gunshot wounds, burn, smoke inhalation. Like,
And she's just like writing it
child
down, just like,
detoxing.
oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
we didn't kidnap her or drug her. I wasn't going to ask.
You know?
It does make you think, like, man, the hospital's workers and healthcare professionals in Brockton Bay deserve some freaking medals of honor. Just, can you imagine, like, the day-to-day goings on in the hospitals? Just
That would be the place to work, though. Like, if you were like a nurse and you like just graduated college, you're like, where am I gonna work? Like, go work at the villain hospital, because like I'm sure you get paid really fucking well. You get to see
And
a
all you
lot
have to
of
do
things.
is ignore some child trafficking.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
It's fine.
Just, close your eyes for a second and man, just money in
And-
the bank.
Wow.
Also, I would like to back up to just Taylor giving Tattletale way too much shit at one point, because they're asking questions about, details, and Tattletale goes, maybe, I don't know. And Taylor just turns on her, is like, what do you know then? And I was like, Taylor, what do you know, you blind ass bitch? Like, don't get up on Tattletale's business, because Tattletale's trying her hardest over here. And you, meanwhile, are on like some rampant crusade to just be obstinate and stubborn right now. Like, don't give Tattletale this shit right now. Tattletale is your best friend.
To be fair, to quote one of my favorite movies, for Taylor, it's been a doozy of a day.
It has been a doozy.
But she's
of
been
a
able
day.
to say that for like the past 3 months of her life.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. I haven't made it yet, but I want to make the Randy Marsh, Taylor after every fight. I didn't hear no bell.
Basically, yeah. Just bleeding out everywhere, half blind.
Yeah.
On fire.
Yeah. There is a point, because I think obviously for all of Worm, there's kind of this idea of like, well, is Taylor the good guy or the bad guy? And that's something they like weave and touch on later in chapters. But in chapter 1, where she's sitting with Dinah, and Dinah's like feeding her numbers really quick, before the headache sets in. And she basically is like, there's only a 51% chance that I'm actually going to go home. And
it's just a 50% chance that Taylor keeps her there.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing though, is that Taylor's like thinking about it, and she's like, I wonder what that percentage is. And then she realizes like, oh shit, it's me. Like, I'm the deciding factor here. Like, whether Dinah is going home or not. It's because it would be so easy to just like keep her here.
Hey, Dinah, you can't go home. There's a dangerous monster on the loose. She knows about you and that you're probably her chance at like getting home. So it's for everyone's best interest that you stay right in your little cage.
Yeah.
Here, do you want a piece of candy?
Which I do appreciate. I do appreciate getting to know Dinah just a little bit here. I know that she's not really a major character at this point. Although she's been Taylor's focus, we haven't seen much of her. But getting to see her characterized more, getting to see the way she talks and how Taylor picks up that she talks way too formally for a 13-year-old girl, which is probably a side effect of being around Coil too much. And then just her little honesty, but the way that she gets what she wants of just being like, there's only a 50% chance I go home. And that just, I don't know. The whole scene with Dinah kind of it's very heartbreaking. I don't know. There's just something about it. I'm like, man.
For sure.
Because it feels like, in a way, it feels like a Pyrrhic victory. Like she won. She got Dinah home, but I don't know at what cost to herself and to everyone around her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then in the next chapter, where Dinah's basically, she can't even see the possibilities anymore because she's been detoxing. and the panic of like they won't want me. Like she's convinced that her parents don't want her back, that she's fallen too far, and therefore like they won't want to see her, they won't want to take care of her, and just like that panic in the car as she's going is just like, God, that one hurts. That one hurts really badly.
That combined
really
with the fact that, you know how sometimes people say like the anticipation of vomiting is worse than vomiting itself?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And can you imagine being able to see into every future where you vomit and waiting for it to happen?
What
Nick.
No, I mean, that's what she says, though. That's what she describes. It's like, it's terrible.
And she knows, too. She's like, it'll take me about 6 days. Like, it'll take me about 1 week to, like, come down out of the detox. Like, that is a long time to just be in utter misery.
But, and then her saying, though, like, no, I can't have any drugs. I got to do it natural. Or else there's a 70% chance I relapse or something, right?
Yeah. She knows the numbers. Like, she knows. And that is a boon to her because otherwise, like if you're in that much, agony while detoxing, like you just want the pain to stop. You just want whatever it is to end. But because she knows that like any way to, any other drugs might lead to her relapsing, like because she knows that and she's committed to trying to get off the quote unquote candy, like I imagine that that's even better to like know, like the idea of if you're traveling in the car and you have no idea how long it takes to get to your destination, looking at a map and that's, a GPS that's spitting out like you have 9 hours and 32 minutes to go. Like, okay, at least I have numbers that I can like mentally tick down and work through, as opposed to who knows when will this ever end, kind of. Yeah. So like I imagine it can be somewhat of a boon to her.
For sure. That seems helpful.
All right, should we move along?
Yeah, let's move right along.
One last thing real quick.
Last thing.
I am just so glad that she is actually back with her family. I think Alan said it where you kind of get a little bit tired of this part of Taylor's story.
Yeah.
And so having that mission done feels really satisfying. And of course, the scene where they come out, they hug her, they take her in. I'm like, okay, good.
Yeah, that felt really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Taylor getting a win, which is like really, really rare.
And them not completely shitting on her for it.
Yeah.
I do want to say,
she's like, don't thank me.
Don't mention it. Which I do want to say, though, just as an interesting kind of world building piece. So Dinah's parents knew that she had powers before she got kidnapped.
Yeah.
But if we remember back the wards talking about her, like Weld saying she must have gotten powers, but we didn't know because it wasn't on the record. So her parents kept it a secret. And Dinah even says, oh, my parents, they pretended like I didn't have powers.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does show that, at least in this world, there is some level of, prejudice in a sense against people having powers. I don't know exactly. I wouldn't say it's the outright prejudice of like X-Men or anything, but there must be something there in the world of like, my kid is normal, right? She's not one of those weirdos who have powers.
Mm-hmm. I think it's one of those things where like you have powers, everybody's always second guessing everything about you. Where like nothing you do can be accepted because there's always the like, oh well, that's because you have powers.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
you won a basketball game. Oh, it's because you had powers. Oh, why did you do so well on the SAT? Oh, it's because you have powers. Even if that's not,
you're a precog. That's why.
Yeah, even if it's not in your power set, people are still going to find a way to be like, oh, no, that's why.
It's a safety thing too. Like she gets kidnapped because of her powers. Like by not telling people that like, hey, our kid triggered. Like you think maybe I'm somehow protecting her, and also like she would potentially have to make a choice. Like, are you going to join the wards now? Like, is that going to be your life now, or we're just going to like keep it, below the radar, and we're going to try and keep, as normal of a life for you as we possibly can. Like, because once it's out that you have powers, especially precog, like your life is done so. Like your life is completely different now. Like I think about that with Amy Dallin. Like you have healing powers. Like how do you not use that, you know? So it's like you're almost forced to make a decision, to make a stand if you have powers, because it's like, well, are you really on the good guys team if you're not helping the good guys, you know?
With great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly.
It all comes back to Ben Parker.
Doesn't it always?
I was going to make a joke and attribute that quote to like Batman or something, and I just wanted to make people mad, but I decided against it.
It really inspired me when Aslan in The Return of the King said, may the odds ever be with you.
Yep.
Yep.
And prosper.
And prosper.
Well, also, I love how Taylor like shows up at these people's house and is like, "Hey, don't be scared," and they try to, and then kicks the door.
Yeah.
It's bugs swarming everywhere.
I didn't realize. Like, I remember this. I thought it was in the middle of the day for some reason. No. Like in my head, that's how it went. And now that I read this, I'm like, no, it's like the dark of night. Her silhouette is like, the only thing they see by the streetlight. Knocks on the door. Hello? Like, it's a villain. Ah! Open up. Why? Because I said so. Kicks in door. I'm not trying to hurt you. Don't be scared. I just have your daughter. And they're like, oh God, she has her daughter.
Golly.
Biblically accurate angel moment for sure.
Yes, I was just thinking that. Holy shit. Okay.
That's funny.
Yeah, don't kick in the door. Be like, hey, I brought her home. Just, she needs
therapy
here.
and apple juice.
I took you know what? I did this because I care and I wanted her to be home. This isn't I don't want anything. I'm going to leave her on the doorstep and we'll walk away.
Can I put that on a t-shirt? I need therapy and apple juice.
Yeah, please.
All right. Let's if we're all good, let's head on to the first interlude of this arc. The most powerful man in the world, Kevin Norton, explains to Lizette how and why he is the most powerful man in the world. And apparently Scion listens to him. Crazy. And then he makes her the most powerful woman because he's not doing so hot. And we get a little bit about Scion's background and realize that Scion is actually Zion. We've just been misunderstanding for a while now.
Absolutely wild interlude for Wildbow to just drop right here in the middle of the most unrelated series of chapters. But
I love it.
Hey, I'm here for it.
Well, I think it was one of the donation interludes. So it was like, thanks for the money. Okay. Here's the weirdest chapter you'll ever read so far.
Really an odd one.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Oh, it's great.
You're so confused at first going in. You're like, what is happening? Like, what in the fuck? And then all of a sudden, everything kind of clicks into place. And you're just like, oh my God. Oh my God. The responsibility. Holy shit.
Yeah, really interesting descriptions of Zion, sorry.
Yeah.
And like
don't dead name him.
Yeah.
No.
I'm kidding. And, but no, it is really interesting, right? The way that he, Lizette says he looks sad and then he responds, well, it's not that he looks sad. He doesn't look like anything. We feel that because he is sad. And it's this weird like logic of he looks sad to us because he is sad, not we don't see that he's sad and so therefore think he's sad, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very like topsy-turvy how he explains it, but I really like that description. Yeah, it's just it's such an interesting weird interlude. I love it.
Yeah.
What's his dog's name? I love his dog. Duke. Yeah, Duke.
Duke.
Yeah.
Duke. I love Duke.
We love a good boy. little good boy.
Good dog.
Here on this podcast, we love good boys and good girls.
Okay.
Nick, you can't say things like that. I have to be prepared. What I found was really interesting was that he talks about, telling Scion to like, okay, go help people. And then he realizes like, okay, I have to be more specific with that. So like, okay, don't just fight the Endbringers, like kill the Endbringers. And that kind of that distinction of like Scion just doesn't seem to like understand the command really. And he has to like be weirdly specific about it for Scion to actually like, fight. And the priorities now from like how we've seen him, interact or, how he shows up so late to things is that like, well, in his mind, he's been told to help, so he's helping. But it's clearly like there's no hierarchy. It's just like, okay, someone needs help, I'm going to help them. And even if on the other side of the world, there's a huge disaster happening, like I'm going to help this overturned, old lady and her groceries. Like the idea that like he doesn't understand the hierarchy and that Kevin is trying to like help him like understand it is like, oh, that's really, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what a fascinating character.
Also, that's so much responsibility that now Lizette has of just like, well, you're in charge, I guess.
Right.
You're in charge of the most powerful being on the planet, besides the Endbringers. Like, all right, cool. Great.
Yep.
Yep. It's like, time for me to retire. I'm dying.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do this.
And then like he like lives on the street too. Like he is literally the most powerful man in the world. And he's dying in a gutter, basically. Like, fuck.
I am a little confused why he doesn't just say, I mean, I think he doesn't want the responsibility anymore as part of it.
Yeah.
But I'm curious why he wouldn't just say, Zion, I'm passing off my responsibility to Lizette, but before you go, heal me, fix me, I'm broken. Maybe he doesn't want to risk whatever Zion's brain would interpret that as. But
yeah.
I don't know. It's curious to me that he doesn't even ask like, hey, I'm dying. If before you go, could you fix me up a little, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
that's what I would do.
Find me someone who can,
Yeah, there's a weird sort of I don't know what to call it. Kevin Kevin Norton, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got this sort of perspective of the whole world, I think, essentially, that's sort of encased with Scion. It's just very hopeless. It's very nihilistic, I guess.
It really is.
He's just he's the most powerful man in the world. He has the ability to influence the most powerful being in the world, and yet the world is still shit. And so I think I got the sense reading it that there's this he's just kind of done. He's done existing. Yeah. Like, what's the point? That he's just kind of reached that, which is really sad. It's just kind of reached this moment where he doesn't really want to continue living.
Yeah. He seems very like resigned to his fate.
Yeah.
We interrupt our scheduled program to bring you a word from our sponsor, Zencastr, a one-stop shop for all your podcasting needs. When we first started this podcast, we knew we needed a service that would let us record remotely. After doing some research, Zencastr was the obvious choice. We started using Zencastr and never looked back. It's super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. All you do is log in, invite people to join your room, and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. You can record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. You can rest easy even if you have an unstable connection, knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality. We do all our recording in Zencastr, and when the episode is ready, we can distribute it to all major podcast platforms. Zencastr has made podcasting so much easier with its all-in-one podcasting platform and tools. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code BrocktonbaybC, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. That's zencastr.com/pricing and use our code BrocktonbayBC. And now back to our scheduled programming.
Any other?
I mean, this is what you get though for being nice to people. You know, you end up in a situation you don't want to be in, where you're suddenly the most powerful woman in the world.
Yeah, that's actually a great. What would you guys do in this scenario if all of a sudden this guy was like, "Hey, you're in charge now. Best of luck." Like, what would you guys do with that? Because like my first instinct is to like totally misuse the power and be like, "Hey, I'd like to go for a ride, around like over the ocean, maybe, and then we can come back, and then we'll do good for the world."
I don't know why.
Yeah, and I think if Scion felt more human, then I might be comfortable with that. But I'm getting the sense that simply being in the presence of Zion is like,
yeah.
I mean, it would be like, we've referenced it already, but biblically accurate angel. You're like, you're not just gonna walk up to that kind of creature and be like, "Hey, can you give me an Uber?"
Yeah, right.
You know, be my Uber for a
Aladdin
bit.
moment right here.
Yeah. A magic Zion ride.
Yes.
I'm thinking of that meme where it's like the genie's face when I wish for a third genie blowjob. It's like,
Oh my God.
Yep.
Oh my God. But yeah, no, I
Unlimited
am
power.
curious. Like, how would you guys handle that?
I mean, that's one of those like, oh, how would you handle winning a $10 billion lottery? Like, I don't know. That is
I-
more
You
power.
haven't thought about it? Come on.
I have, but that is more power than I could. I have no idea how I would wield that.
I have a better idea of how I would wield the $1 billion lottery than I would this like Scion thing.
Mhm.
Because Scion
Yeah.
would be, hey, do you speak? Like, can you? I command you to speak. Talk to me. Give me something. Where are you from? And if nothing, cool. You know what? Just stop. Kill the Endbringers. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Get there faster. Maybe. Like,
Mhm.
wouldn't change a whole lot.
Prioritize and bring our attacks, maybe.
Yeah, it's like trying to do the genie wish thing, but the genie doesn't speak your language.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, well then my wishes don't exactly like you can't really wish for everything. So you're just trying to figure out the thing that you can get across that's easy and is doable.
I mean,
Yeah, 'cause-
it's to a greater degree, it's the same conflict that Amy has, which is just like you're just indebted to helping as much as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
it's more
not
of a
being able to
curse
help
than
everything.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
I would
agree, actually.
definitely not want to do it. Personally.
I'm just a tiny human.
I'm imagining a world
I don't
where
do good under stress.
Lisette is just passing Scion on to the next person, and then he's passing it on, and it's just a chain of like, I don't want the responsibility. You take them. Oh,
Yeah.
this goes around. But of course, then there's responsibility there, right? Because you don't want the wrong person to have them.
Right.
Good God.
Yeah.
Kill everything. So it's like, well, okay, well, I got to hold on to him because at least I'm not going to tell him to blow up the planet.
Right.
So.
You just find you happen across a nice looking man who kind of reminds you of a Jack Sparrow type of figure, and you think he looks like a good person to control Scion.
Ugh. God,
Yep.
the chaos.
Start going down the list of like Nobel Peace Prize winners. Okay, who gets them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any closing thoughts on Kevin Norton, Zion?
No, unless you want me to be controversial and say I found this one really boring. But maybe that's just this go round.
I think it's oddly placed. I think the interlude is oddly placed. It kind of breaks up some nice tension in this arc. I like the chapter, but I do wish it came, Maybe at the very
Somewhere
end of the
else.
interlude or something like that.
Yeah. Or
I
at the
have
beginning of the next one or something.
0 notes for this interlude, if that tells you anything.
Oh, that does actually.
Sounds a lot. Well, let's move along then.
Yeah. So we're gonna jump back into the fight now. And I'm gonna combine the next 2 chapters as well. So chapter 3, the Undersiders and company meet the wards, gives them the lowdown on Noelle. We have the whole conversation in the vehicle, Clock Blocker giving Taylor kind of this 3rd degree, and she offers a bit of explanation or defense of her actions. So there's a little bit of a conversation of like, what good are you actually doing? And then in chapter 4, the PRT finally get moving. We're kind of, mapping out who's going where. Eidolon and Tattletale have this kind of chat in a little bubble of doom. Clearly some stuff being hashed out there. And Noelle pops up on camera to offer an ultimatum. She wants the Undersiders, and she will have nothing else.
Knows what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say, from the hero's perspective, not a bad trade. I mean, if Arms Master was there, he would have made that in
he would have
second.
so fast.
He would have been like, no, we're not going to. And then as soon as you get on the battlefield, just like nets them all and just offers them up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely the
really,
intended
Noelle,
goal.
I should be paying you.
Yeah.
The wrong thing for the right reasons vibe.
The wrong thing for the wrong reasons.
Well, I mean, in his mind though, if Eidolon had like the idea that like, well, I'm taking care of 2 separate problems with one very large rock. Like, okay, cool. I think I'll take it. And so what if the backlash hits me? Like, okay, because he's not doing so hot himself anyways. So like, if he takes one, quote unquote, one for the team, takes out 2 threats with 1 boulder, like that seems like a decent trade-off.
I like too because I'm trying to break this up and trying to differentiate my first read from this now being my second read. But this is really the most we've seen of Eidolon. Okay, sorry. Quick aside. Eidolon or Eidolon? What are we going with?
I've always said Eidolon.
So
it's definitely
Eidolon
correctly pronounced Eidolon.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But apparently it's Eidolon.
No.
Forget it.
That's, some people just don't know how to.
Well, the Worm audiobook switches quite a bit, so I was never sure. I just like the sound of Eidolon.
The actual word is Eidolon, but it does not sound as good as Eidolon.
That can't be right.
If I look at the pronunciation, to be fair, I'm really bad at reading pronunciations. But
stick it in the chat.
Yeah.
One day we'll have an episode where we'll have Wildbow on, and all we'll talk about is the correct pronunciations.
I refuse.
Where you mispronounced everything.
I refuse to acknowledge that it's Eidolon. That is.
God, Google and Merriam-Webster both say Eidolon.
Well, who the hell is Merriam or Webster?
What do they know?
Google's a hack. So
yeah, wow. You know what? Dead men tell no tales. So Eidolon.
Yeah,
that's right.
Eidolon. Yep. All right, Eidolon. We'll go with Eidolon. Anyway, all that to say,
if you're upset, comment below.
please do. We don't see a lot of Eidolon before this. We get a glimpse of him in some of the Cauldron flashbacks. A little bit here and there. But it's
the
mostly
legend interlude.
The legend interlude probably the most screen time there. And of course we're coming up on a little bit more of him. But for now, we don't he's still sort of this mystical, third member of the Triumvirate that everyone just sort of worships and idolizes. Mm-hmm. And getting to see him here is really fun. Getting a full conversation and sort of seeing his approach to everything. It's neat seeing another one of those sort of, top tier heroes make an appearance.
Mm-hmm.
They idolize him.
Idolize him.
Which is great because he gets in there and man, what a bitch.
Yeah.
We don't want to jump ahead. I really like his conversation with the therapist in that interlude, so we'll wait for that. But yeah,
His little tantrum with Tattletale, though, like
yeah.
I don't want to jump past though the conversation that Clockblocker and Taylor have.
Yes, that is a good
Ooh,
one.
That is one of my favorite parts of this chapter.
Yes.
Because we're finally seeing Taylor having to reckon with her whole the ends justify the means philosophy.
Right.
Surmounted by as well, I'm going to do the best I can and figure out why it was okay later kind of philosophy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we're kind of seeing as like, hey, actions have consequences, Taylor. And this is why people hate you.
Yeah.
Oh
gosh.
I was not a fan the first go round. Like Clockblocker was okay, but he was just like a whatever character until I hit this conversation. And I remember going, holy cow, do I really like Clockblocker? Like the fact that he's just like willing to be, he's like, they're like, you're going to be running extra duties if you talk again. And
He's like,
quiet for a second, and it's like, you know what? Fuck it. I got questions, Skitter.
Yeah.
I got a lot of questions.
I
I
like
don't care. Miss Militia, I heard you. I don't give a fuck. Skitter, questions. Number 1, what the fuck? Number 2, do you remember sticking them in my nose? Because I do.
Yeah. Down my throat.
No, it's a great scene. Yeah. It's one of those moments we talk a lot about how a lot of characters feel like they could have been the main character of the story.
Yeah.
And we get to this point and it's like, Clockblocker has a good case. We could have really made this whole story about him if you wanted to. He's been through hell.
I feel like if they were in a room alone, that Taylor could have won him over to understanding if they'd gotten like 10 more minutes. I feel like the reason he was so upset at her was because she made a good case.
Yeah.
And
I
it
don't know though.
frustrated him.
I think part of it is that part of what she realizes is that she doesn't know the consequences of what she decides to do, right? Like the whole talk about Shadowstalker, and he's like, yes, everybody on the team hated Shadowstalker. Even though apparently she was incredibly hot. That was all she had going for her. But everybody hated Shadowstalker. But what happened to her, we don't believe is justified. And it's just Taylor going kind of gobsmacked, like, you're right. I had no idea that happened. That is pretty terrible. And I think that's part of what Clockblocker, why that really bothers Taylor and why she decides to quit the conversation. Not quit. I think they get interrupted, but because she's like, I'm glad we could quit while we were ahead. Because what she's realizing is like, oh, I told Regent to take over Shadowstalker and I trusted him to let her go at the right time. I maybe shouldn't have done that, right? And that's kind of what Clockblocker says. I can't remember the exact line, but he's like, you're saying that you don't know a lot of things. There are consequences of what you do. Interesting. It seems like you don't really care, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And kind of this idea that like she also the amount of like misinformation that happens between the two, like he'll say something and she'll be like, whoa, that's not what happened. And then she'll say something, he'll be like, no, that's not what happened. And kind of this idea that like they've kind of villainized each other or vilified. Is it vilified? They vilified each other.
Mm-hmm.
And like because of that, there's pieces of the puzzle that they're both missing. And like I love that this conversation happened because I wish it happened more. Like, I hate the whole cliche of like, if the two sides just sat down and talked about it, we could figure it out. Like, that's bullshit. But also, there's clearly a ton of misinformation bouncing around here and pieces that they did not know about the other side. And like, being able to kind of connect some of those dots for Taylor and for Clockblocker is so good. It's such a good point to kind of like realize that there's more happening than either of them are aware of. And I really like that. I'm a big fan. I wish we had more kind of scenarios like that because we've run into the PRT quite a few times now where the undersiders have the opportunity to like talk and, come to a potential understanding, and it never happens. Like there's always just everyone's mad, everyone's upset, no one's trusting each other, and like obviously completely understandable. But I wish that they would talk more, because I think they would all realize that like there's more stuff going on than they know about.
Yeah.
Like,
I do think this is one of the few examples, because I think almost every book and movie, qualifies for an idiot plot. And so, or not an idiot plot, but the equivalent of that being just if the two characters could sit down for 10 minutes, then the entire movie would have been resolved.
Right.
Just a 10-minute adult conversation. And
Right.
this is
Adult
one of those
conversation.
where this would have to be, number one, a longer conversation, and two, might not come to a conclusion
Yeah.
that is satisfying. And three, there's enough incentive for the characters to actually stay apart and, to prevent them from even having the sit down conversation. So, like, I absolutely want them to have the conversation. I love them having this conversation. I wish it was longer. And I don't think it would, like, it might take a while. Like, and by a while, I mean like a full day of them talking. But I think one of them could have convinced the other to, essentially understand, if not outright be like, I think Clockblocker probably, after a day of sitting down with Taylor, could have probably convinced her, like, hey, why not join us? And Taylor, on the other hand, probably could have sat down with Clockblocker for the day and made a very good case for, hey, this is why I've been trying to do this whole time.
Yeah.
And him being like, shoot, like, I get it. I just think it would have taken a while, and I would have been all here for it.
Right. Life's not that easy.
No, never is.
Yeah.
Gosh. We also, when we're at the PRT, we get to meet a couple new wards from Chicago.
Yeah, the Chicago wards.
Chicago wards.
Yeah.
Bearden's
That are there?
wards.
Yeah. And that's kind of fun. I will say I love anytime we have like big events where other capes fly in for things. That's very fun. I want to see all the capes and their fun names. The names always get me. They're just very fun. But like having new people come with new powers, and like we get to see the dynamic of the Undersiders paired up with new capes and like different things and how they can dynamically work together. I love that. That's super, super fun.
Yeah. What do you? If I remember right, it's Grace, Tecton, Raymancer.
Mm-hmm. There's one more.
The one other,
the Storm guy.
Oh, what is
something to do with like being?
I remember him as Magnemite, but I know that's not.
Yeah, it's like reckless or something like that.
Airwolf or something.
Wanton.
Don't wanton. Don't airwolf me. But yes, he does basically have airwolf powers.
Oh my gosh!
I do love that little bit of Regent just clowning on their names and being like, "Oh, Raymancer, what are they running out of ideas up there?"
More like Gaymancer, and everybody's like, "Come on, dude, try harder.
Come on."
Yeah, I love it.
He's like, "Try harder." They should have tried harder.
I also like how much synergy they have, and they look like they've worked well together for a while. It's a nice bit of contrast to our Brockton Bay wards, who
it is
they
impressive.
got there, but
they're a little
for all 5 seconds they get to do anything.
Yeah, they don't get much, but still. Moving along.
Man, I have so many more notes. We just kind of been glossing over everything.
No, we can. No, let's talk about them.
Yeah.
18.4. Finally get the use. I'm sure he said it before, but copacetic, the most wild bow word that I've ever heard. I had never heard that word before in my life until I read Worm.
Not me.
And I was just like,
it right now.
What the heck? And I read it. And of course, I do the thing, as many of you may have done, where you don't look things up and you just run with it in context. So, it shows up a lot more because it's a wild bow word and he really likes it. So I was like, oh yeah, copacetic. I assume it just means like, hey, everybody chill out. Like we're all cool here, basically.
Funny enough, yes, yeah. It's everything's good. Basically, is what it means. Also, if you've seen the Recess movie,
I have not.
they use that
No.
when
Been a
it's a
while.
flash. It's so good. That's why I first heard it.
Oh, interesting.
When Principal Prickly is a young, fresh teacher, back in the 70s,
Wow.
they are constantly saying "copacetic, baby."
That does seem like a 70s word. Like
maybe Worm watched the Recess movie as inspiration.
he was like,
There you go.
copacetic is the word that we're gonna land on here.
How's it hanging?
Let's see.
Oh, copacetic, baby is the response.
Okay,
That's what they
so
say.
I'm gonna start saying copacetic from now on.
It's
Because I say
like
stellar.
it's a
a good
substitute
word.
for groovy or okay or cool or it's fine.
Oh,
that kind of
fuck
thing.
yeah. Fuck yeah. No, that's
It's
I
a
love
great
in
word.
this universe. It's always a word for hey, everybody, put your guns down. Tattletale uses it a lot. Like, hey, we're all copacetic here.
Yeah, we're all
Don't
cool.
use your big words.
Don't
Could have just
crimp
said we're
my
all
style,
cool.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's funny.
We're
Let's see.
copacetic.
Love the imp bit where she's like, they're all talking and then she's like chiming in and they're all like, whoa, where'd you come from?
Every time.
But then also it's like, we're going to put you and your brother in a room and then put a note on the door that says, do not open.
Do not open at any point.
And she's like, man.
Take all the
you
fun
guys
out
have
of it.
notes for this?
I love it.
Let's see. Clock blocker's bad at math. Taylor definitely won that argument. I don't know what he was counting. There's like, okay, we'll call that one a draw. Okay, you get that one. Okay, you get that one. I'll take this one. Okay, I'll give you a half point. You know what? We'll just call it even at the end. It was like, what sort of youth pastor? I got the last point in, so I win the game bullshit was that. So maybe he has dyscalculia too. And then all the way back, I have a nitpick, as long as we're being pedantic. All the way in 18.2, Taylor, how the fuck do you know what color the creatures are?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
What
Of all the things.
Yeah.
What's the context for that?
She's blind.
She's
right now.
blind.
She can't see.
Well,
she can
right.
see blurry.
Right.
Which creatures are we discussing?
Yeah,
I don't even know. I don't have Nick. I can't write all the details down. I just have vibes here. Like,
I mean, flies can smell color, so.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm just gonna start throwing out some BS insect facts and see if anybody picks up on them.
You're the teacher. You're gonna
flies have 5 eyes.
I'm an English teacher, Michael, and everybody knows that English teachers lie the most.
Everyone respects.
Yeah, it's all fiction. That's what they call it.
I will say
respecting teachers. Okay, fine.
The Taylor is blind thing. I'm so over it. I'm so over it.
Yeah,
like I get it.
No, I'm so here for it. It's got such a build up to my favorite moment later on. I love this. The only things I don't like about it is her blind driving when she hasn't even real drove. Like, that's the only thing I'm not about.
Right? Oh my god.
That and apparently, seeing color.
Yeah, what the fuck?
However she bullshitted that. Also, just a small note, all the way back in 18.2 again, awkward moment given that the last time Ballistic and Parian were in a room, not in a room together, but the last time they were near each other, he was trying to kill her. Like,
oh, that's
did
right.
we just gloss over that? It's like,
right.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, here's Ballistic. Also, let's get Parian in here. And it's like, okay, cool. And everybody's just cool with it, including them too. And I was like, no, like, I wouldn't be cool with that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I didn't
At
even
least
think
for
about
Ballistic, you can justify it by saying he knows that there's bigger stuff at stake than.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, but if I were Parian, given the, I don't know, kind of nervousness she's had about everything else.
Yeah.
Be like, no. That guy right there, what is he? Isn't he bad? Like,
oh, him? No, he's fine. He just likes to shoot people sometimes.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Rachel gives Taylor a ride. They're friends again. We do love that. Oh, I know. And just another general question: how the fuck did she get Vista?
Yeah. So Vista's just walking home,
I assume.
and she's just alone.
She's on patrol.
That's what they
something.
say later, is that she was on her way back home, like out of costume.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
But
Ridiculous.
apparently,
I guess
Noelle can smell powers.
Yeah, she
Yes.
can sense them.
I mean, we talked
She
about
can
it.
smell powers, and Taylor can lick colors, apparently. So
And it
one
does
of
kinda
those
make
does make more
sense.
sense than the other.
And her grabbing Vista does make quite a bit of sense. This is not a spoiler. It's just Vista's her what's it called?
power set.
Power scale or whatever. Her rating. Thank you. God.
Yeah.
She's got a really high rating, and so it makes sense that of all of the capes that Noelle could have sniffed out, she would probably be drawn to someone like Vista pretty easily. So it does sort of make sense that she would have grabbed her. Yeah. Although I don't know how she snuck up on her. That's a little tricky.
I mean, you'd smell. I imagine you'd smell Noelle coming.
Well, I think they said that. I mean, later getting into the fight, Taylor says that she is surprisingly fast for her bulk, and that she can move about the. She's like a truck barreling down the highway. So move speed is like easily like 50, 60, 70 miles an hour, which is horrifying considering she's also the size of an elephant, apparently.
Yeah.
Now, I think the bigger question is, how is Noelle hiding without Vista? I think that's the harder thing to explain.
Any parking garage, apparently.
Yeah.
It's always the parking garages, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, that's all the extra notes I had.
That's good.
Thank you
For now.
For sharing. Yeah, for now.
I think that brings us to another interlude. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does.
Second donation interlude.
Yes. So we have this, again, kind of a jump away from the story here. We have an interlude with some of the pure. Breakfast with Night and Fog. That's just weird all the way around. Caden, Theo, and Crusader head over to one of the local universities to do some research on triggers, and Theo gets utterly abandoned in order to try and get him to trigger.
Oh, poor Theo.
Poor Theo. I love Theo. Theo is a peach. I'm really
He
upset.
is a little peach.
I gotta say, though, the description of Night and Fog is just so good because it's so bad. It's like, ha!
Yeah.
What is like? It's like some kind of Truman Show stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like, what is happening?
There's Wildbow. There's a couple times where Wildbow does stuff that, he just clearly likes the vibe of that, so he does it over again. And this is one of those where like people bad at being people is something that I feel as if he's written about a few times. And I always find it interesting because that, like, even that phrase is something that I've started observing, like, in my life. I was like, yeah, there are a lot of people that really want to go through the motions of, being human beings, and they're just bad at it. Like, the way they go about their life is the way that somebody, like an alien, trying to pretend to be human would do it. And it just looks wrong.
There's some. I'm like thinking of what's his name from the first Men in Black movie with the bug suit.
Yeah.
Just trying to walk around.
Yeah.
Or the bug in human suit. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not even thinking that weird. I'm thinking just like weird as in like the uncanny valley where like you look at somebody and you're like, man, that is not somebody being human. That is somebody trying to be like a person, and they just
it's just not happening.
It's just not happening. When people use the word NPC,
right,
it's not exactly that, but it definitely feels like that. We're like, am I having a conversation with a person here, or you just pre-scripted? Like, what is going on? Because I've definitely hit conversation loops with people where I'm like, Oh, we've reset your dialogue tree. Oh, and you don't even know. Doggone it.
We've ran through the options.
Yeah.
So the question is, there's breakfast with Night and Fog. Are they like, it's just like Waffle House at 2 a.m. breakfast? Or do you think they're like more like a Denny's crowd? Like where is Night and Fog going for breakfast?
They don't do Waffle House.
No.
They go to freaking like, what's it? First
Cracker Barrel
table or something.
I don't see Cracker Barrel, but
well, I mean, she's making breakfast, right? Which is part of what makes it weird. Because it is basically like she watched they watched a bunch of shows from the 80s of sitcoms with families.
Right.
And they were like, oh, that's how married couples are supposed to behave. Okay. And so she makes the huge breakfast because that's what you see in all the movies. Nobody ever eats it all, but that's what you see.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely made some scrambled eggs with the eggshells in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Leave It to Beaver era of like black and white television.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I love it though. It's one of those moments I'm like, oh yeah, oh this is good. Like the creep factor for Night and Fog. And there is something to that too, right? Like they talk briefly about how Night. Okay, so there's another organization that sounds a lot like Cauldron that they mentioned, except it's a German Nazi one, I guess.
Yeah.
The Gesellschaft.
The Gesellschaft.
Right. Yep.
And it makes it sound like they. Yes.
Yeah.
The Shaft of Giselle.
Yeah.
What?
I knew it was coming.
But they make it sound like yes, Michael, that is what it is. But they make it sound like they've basically turned Night and Fog into automatons, kind of like Oni Lee was when he died. And so they're again, I think they are right, but they are actually maybe on loop, and until Crusader or Caden tell them to do something, they're just on loop. This is just what they do.
That's a good observation.
I think, just guessing here, I think Gesellschaft is probably the one of like the German extension of Cauldron, like how we've seen Accord and Coil are basically franchise members of Cauldron. Like they fall underneath it, and I imagine Gesellschaft is that, but for like they get the vials, I imagine. And then once they've converted the people into having powers, like probably before and after, there's probably extensive psychological conditioning that goes into it. Because they talk about like, oh, they produce monsters. Like, yeah, it's probably a lot of brainwashing plus Cauldron vials equals these powered individuals.
Yeah.
Could very well be. It does. That may have been a little bit of a spoiler, but it does seem like Cauldron does have their hands in everything.
Yeah, I would say because we've already talked about that with Accord and Coil. They've mentioned like the Cauldron interlude had them talk about their interactions with Coil.
Yeah, I think, and maybe I misread that part, but I thought that was more implying that Coil was just like, hey, this is a good asset. We'll let him kind of do his thing for a bit and not interfere. I didn't get the sense that they were like Coil was connected to Cauldron, but I might
maybe
have misread that.
I was just saying my vibe was that like he's not a Cauldron member, but like you said, an asset is a good word. Yeah.
Yeah, just Cauldron's. You get the sense that Cauldron is pulling a lot of strings behind the scenes that you're not kind of aware of. Kind of falls into that category.
Yeah, sort of like they've got assets that we already know about in. I mean, we had. I take it back. We had the whole thing with Rebecca. What's her name? Costa Brown.
Oh yeah.
For all intents and purposes, the PRT is essentially an asset.
Yeah.
If not, more, if not downright more Cauldron, like than everybody else.
Yeah,
That is true. That is true. Yeah.
Yeah. Also in here, just a small note, Gazelle Shaft, because gosh, do I love this concept, and also, Germany. It's just a utilitarian relationship. Like, one of my biggest pet peeves is like people using friends for everything, and I'm very strict on how I define friends and acquaintances and stuff. Most people in my life are acquaintances. If you're lucky, you get to be a friend. And I know a lot of people will say friend about anybody they meet on the street. And Germans have a word, Gesellschaft, which is just a relationship, usually in like singular, but also as a unit of them, which is, this is just strictly business, basically.
Isn't that just like a coworker?
Correct. But it could be, I mean, not just a coworker. Like, you might not work with somebody. It might be like, hey, you'd be like your drug dealer. We have a gazelle. We have a gazelle shack.
Yes.
We're not friends.
A working relationship.
You don't get to come over and hang out. We are not friends. I give you money. You give me drugs.
Some people are friends with
that
their
simple. That's what I'm saying. And in this case, if you had gazelle shaft with your supplier, it is not friendship.
The term of work relation.
Strictly business.
I like it. Good word.
Classic German.
Learned a couple of good words here.
Yes, copacetic, baby.
I do love that. I do love that the local university does have a whole parahuman division. Like you can major in parahuman studies, and I also do really like. It's a damn shame that he's such a racist guy, but Crusader is such an interesting character to have as a perspective here.
Classic Nick.
I know. I keep picking the worst people, but here's what I think is really interesting about him. His trigger event sounds fascinating.
What was
in
his
the sense
trigger
of
event
like
again?
So he describes it, right? They're talking about basically the researcher is saying it seems like people who are under a lot of physical strain, they end up with a lot more physical powers like purity. People under a lot of emotional, psychological strain often end up with seemingly psychological powers, master classes, which is why they theorize that maybe there are more villains who are masters than heroes. And Crusader thinks back and he goes, well, my trigger event was a psychological strain, but I always thought of my power as more of a physical power. And so he's kind of thinking back on it. And basically what I gathered, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, he had a disabled sister or a sister with disabilities.
Yes.
Who took
Okay,
a ton of resources from his parents, and he felt abandoned. And when she was in the hospital and sick and on life support, he decided to pull the plug. And then because people started running in, he panicked and ran, and that was his trigger event.
Jeez, what a fucking trigger.
Yeah.
Right? Like as a child, I think he sounded young. I don't know how old he was, but he sounded very young when it happened.
Or something.
Yeah.
Like again, just like that. It's one of those like, wow, like I can't, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Kind of trigger events. And much like Taylor is a high amount of psychological strain. That's just so interesting. And then hearing him describe how his power works too, of course, is really neat. I always love that too.
Also, I love the explanation for it. This is, Wild Bow writing here, but a perfect explanation for why masters to end up being like the traditional villain archetype. It's like they're usually lonely people who are like outliers, yada, yada, yada. And that's why they always end up like masters specifically tend to end up villains. I was like, oh, classic, mega mind and, all the other. Just what do you think? Evil villain. This is evil villain, It's a great explanation.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then Theo gets left.
Bye, Theo.
Yeah. For the best. Good on
I mean-
Justin for realizing what needed to happen.
Yeah. I mean, he did need to trigger, but like, I love Theo so much. He's such a good boy. And the fact that they're just like, okay, bye. Like,
Yeah.
upsetting.
Tell me he isn't better off.
Well,
I mean, maybe.
He probably is. But it's hard.
I mean, he's going to get caught. He's going to go to the wards. It'll be fine.
Well, he doesn't have powers. He's just going to get caught and they're
He's
going to be like,
just a poor child.
Oh, right. He's going to
you're
get
a ward
caught.
of the state now. Like,
well, even better, right? Then he's
orphanage.
a ward of the state. But no, I mean, he doesn't have powers, so he's just going to listen.
Actually,
he was in the definition of a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
And a toxic family.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
probably.
I think he'll be better off.
Yeah, he gets like what, a year and a half in the orphanage, and then they kick him out. So it's a little more time.
Poor kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he is the definition of getting handed the short end of the stick in life.
Yeah.
He got beat with the short end of the stick.
Oh.
Yeah, basically. Which I do also love that brief moment where Purity was like, I don't know, Max was always so confident. I can't see him having a psychological trigger. And Crusader's just like, his dad was all father. That's all you need to know. Like, even they know, like, they're like all part of the same group with the same whacked out racist views. But he's like, no, you got to understand, like, all father was all father.
There's racism. And then there's all father.
Gosh.
That guy saw a mole on you. He was like, is that color?
Oh,
absolutely not in my house.
Oh.
Okay, well.
Broke Hannah.
18.5.
Yeah. Okay. So moving back into the story that we're all here for. I guess we're gonna do the next two again. And then there's another interlude. But 18.5, everyone decides we're gonna work together. The Undersiders get threatened with a kill order. We have the attack of the Vistas, which is good that we kind of at least know what's happened to Vista, but bad that we're now having to fight them. 18.6, the three Vistas are taken down with some disastrous radiation consequences. And the group heads to stop Eidolon from making a very bad mistake for the outcome of this next fight. There's a lot more that happens in there, but that's the
well. Now guess who's on board with the Undersiders?
How the turntables have. Yeah, it's strange how, like, if you spend any amount of time with the Undersiders, you like they're easily likable. They're smart. They have good tactics, and they might be right about a lot of things.
Just maybe.
I want to agree with you, but I don't think the Undersiders are likable.
Lisa is
I think they're very likable.
Because hear me out. So, bitch.
Okay.
Point number 2, Regent.
Oh no, I think Regent's like fun. I think Regent's very
no
fun.
Regent. He's a piece of shit. I don't know what to tell you. Like, he's a piece of shit, and he's going to be a piece of shit to other people, regardless. Like, that's just who he is. Like, he can't help himself.
When you think about like public school and like who the popular people are, a lot of them are jerks, but they're popular because they're so charismatic. Like, Regent is super charismatic. Like, he might be an ass,
you so far sometimes. Sometimes you're just an ass.
I do think we kind of have friend-colored goggles on for the Undersiders.
Yeah,
I think I totally understand where other characters are coming from.
Lisa.
Lisa's best girl. Lisa is best girl.
No. If you were up against Lisa in any way, shape, or form, insufferable.
But they're not,
because
they're not, though. We're all fighting together. We're not up against Lisa.
I get that. Look, I get that. I understand that. I'm on your side. Lisa is best girl. Regent's still an ass. But
that's not changing.
But think about this. This is one of those things where, like, you think about characters in a story or anything like that. I don't know if we discussed this before, but Fire Emblem 3 houses. You get to pick 3 of the leaders. Yeah, I know so this resonates with some of you deep. Okay, you get to pick
Just me, I think.
one of the 3. Okay, and you're like, gee, who am I going to pick? Now, obviously, the correct answer when you're making your run is Black Eagles because we love our Empress. She's the best. Second run, you're like, gee, I really want to hang out with Sad Boy Puppy Dog Prince. So of course you go with him. Dimitri, love my baby boy. And then your third run, you're like, I should go back to the Black Eagles again and do the White Clouds run through. Excellent decision. Now, on your fourth run through, I know you're thinking, maybe I should go back to Dimitri again. But there is another less interesting character than the other two.
Leading to something?
I'm so
yes,
confused.
with the golden deer. Hold on. Now, the
You
point
lost me
being
already.
in all of this, you love playing with the other two because they're such interesting characters. But in truth, the third character is the one that I would actually want to hang out with. He's charming, he's funny, he's not bombastic, pompous, or, really that much of an ass. Like, he's just kind of a cool dude. Nothing super special about him. He's the one I would hang out with. And in this case, while I love Lisa, she would be insufferable to get to know. Like, you have to, until you get to the friend stage, and even then. Taylor, honestly, kind of probably too moody for most of the time. She's just sitting there, like, you're like, hey, Taylor, what's going on? She's like, I'm thinking. You're like, okay, like, you want to share? Like, no. Like, and you go to bitch, and of course you're like, I don't want to get rabies, so you just move on from there. Regent's, just being a dick. You're like trying to be friendly, and he's just a dick to you, and then later comes up and is like, why aren't we friends? And you're like, because you're an asshole. Brian, I love Hot Brian is hot.
Hot Brian is hot.
Hot Brian is probably like talking to a potato sometimes. Like, his people skills are not good. And then Imp is, I can't deal with Gen Z now. Like, I can't tell what skibbity riz she is throwing out. So, like, bet rip lit fam. She is that, but, as a person.
Oh my God.
And I'm not about to deal with that and her power at the same time. So, like, who on the Undersiders is a good person to, like, oh yeah, they're really friendly and I would really like to hang out with them. The answer is nobody. They're not good. Like,
This is why
I love that you're actually choking as you're talking about this.
Yeah, no,
Ironically, too.
I am
Just to go back
gagged
to
right
the 3.
now.
Yeah.
Oh
my God.
Just to go back to the 3
Jesus.
houses thing. Ironically, I did pick Claude on my first run because he was the only one who didn't come across as a pompous asshole. But that is only a reference that like 1% of our fans will get.
Yeah,
I think,
and I would like to think Vic is that 1%.
Yeah, don't put
Vic,
that on Vic.
There you go.
Don't put that on Vic.
We don't know.
Vic doesn't need to succumb to your weird off-topic little tangent nonsense.
Vic,
This
read
is
us a
why it's
comment if you
impossible
know.
to make
Also,
sound
Alan on
vocals.
YouTube chats, shout out to you, Alan. I know you know what I'm talking about. I'm
Put
calling
that
out.
on
I'm
Alan
calling out all
either.
of them.
That's though.
I'll start calling out names. Wolf Tamer 9. Give it.
Is that you got more? Yeah, give me more. What you got?
Lizard of Oz, lest I invoke him.
No, don't bring Lizard of Oz. Look, the point is Alan has long tangents that we sort of get. And I so what you're saying is, to sum it up, is that the Undersiders aren't great to look at.
I didn't say that. They're probably really attractive. They're just
okay. Let me rephrase.
They're just
the Undersiders aren't great friend material.
no.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now that we've summed that up,
You know what it is? Here, one thought I had in the midst of all of that, very much shorter than Alan's rant. Lisa's a mean girl.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's
I'm
And-
surprised that she and Taylor are friends.
actually yes.
Yeah, to be honest,
Well, Taylor had no friends, and then Lisa was kind of nice to her.
that's all it takes, really. One semi-nice person.
Sometimes they have really, we can't forget their little shopping stuff.
I
in
love
the
those
very
moments.
beginning. Lisa was cool.
Here's the thing. A lot of these people, I'll say Brian, Lisa, Taylor, would probably be a lot better to get along with, but you'd have to break into that friend stage. And that initial push, like they walk in the room and you're like, I have to be friends with them. Like, absolutely not.
I can see that.
That's fair.
But we also love them.
Yes.
We do like them a lot.
And love
Yes, we
conquers all, right?
It,
Anyways,
well,
back to the fight.
Doesn't
with the
doesn't conquer Noelle. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, they didn't
Just
power
take a sec.
friendship. It didn't work out too well for them here.
Which section have we gotten to it yet? Which section is Tattletale absolutely taking apart? Ya boy. Is that here?
Eidolon? We're past.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
conversation.
passed that. That was
Okay, I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot if I had written. Oh wait, yeah, 18.4. Fuck you, Eidolon, you weak ass bitch. Okay, yeah.
There
Okay,
it
move
is.
on.
There it is.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry.
Anywho,
They try to take on a bunch of Vistas.
they do try. It doesn't go very well.
No, I love how Noelle's power gives the clones like corrupted versions of the initial power. Ooh, really cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah, that I love just instantly we have just offed like 2 people. The
it's pretty
Chicago
fast.
wards roll up and that's it. Just radioactivity to the face.
Yeah.
Who's the one too? I think it's one of them, maybe Raymancer, who's just wanton, who's just like, I'm gonna die, aren't I? Like just immediately.
Oh
just
no, that's Raymancer.
That's
He
Raymancer,
gets it right to
yeah.
the face.
Raymancer gets the
So
radiation to the
unfortunate.
face.
Gosh, I hate
And
that.
Wanton's like, change back, and they're like, he can't, because as soon as he does, the radioactivity is gonna hit him. He brings it back into himself.
Yeah,
Oh,
Jesus, fuck.
Yeah, it's such a, and just the way that the corrupt vistas are described. Again, I think there's going to be a little bit of a stretch of what is it? The believability factor here with Taylor being blind, but just the way that they're described as being angular, pulled, ripped. It's like Vista, but stretched out and then compressed again, and then stretched out and compressed again. And then, like you said, just the fact that she gives these corrupted versions of their powers. I'm trying to remember all the different things that the Vista can do. There's the one that can make Noelle 2-dimensional.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Golly.
She just
Moses.
straight up link to the past in her ass.
Yeah, for real. And just, and then there's the one, the radiation explosions where it's like Vista's power, right? It's expanding it, but it's doing it through radiation rather than whatever space magic Vista uses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine it has something to do with like stretching distance between molecules or something, so that like it's ripping them apart so they're unstable. So instead of it stretching the whole of space, it's just stretching like ripping like electrons out or something, something like that, where all of a sudden all the things are unstable in the space that she affects.
I mean, of all the people that Noelle could have grabbed, Vista's not a great option for for our side.
Probably one of the worst ones she could have grabbed.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I'm sure was why she did it, but fuck.
Yeah, because Noelle said in the video, in the FaceTime call with everybody, she's like, I could smell how powerful she was. Which we didn't really talk that enough about. Maybe that call with Noelle is so creepy, where she's like, I think you're lying to me. I can smell them near you. It's okay if you have to lie, though. I completely understand. Just not like
so creepy.
Oh,
that's great. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird that she's kind of been stuck in the basement for so long. Like someone this powerful, and like obviously we all know why. Safety for everybody, and also the plan was to go home. So like she was willing to hang out in the basement, but like the fact that we've had, like the fact that she's kind of been under the city this entire time. Like she's just been chilling, eating cows by the mouthful. Like she's just been hanging out. Like this huge, monstrous problem, S-tier threat, just hanging out beneath her feet. Like, fuck.
But they make it past a make it past a couple of the vistas.
Yes, they do.
I forget what it is, what Taylor's or Skitter's interactions with the Chicago wards, but there's something that she says, and I love that Tecton, just because of the way, powers and mindsets are written, Tecton basically, as a rock dude, respects solid conviction. So when Taylor's like, this is how it is, he's like, cool.
I respect that.
Yeah. Like, you believe that strongly about it. Yeah. Hell yeah. I don't even remember what that was. I just remember.
Yeah, because that was when they were saying, like, look, people are coming to get Raymancer and Wanton. We could really use your help to fight. Turns out they really needed Tecton's help, at least.
Yeah.
And Tecton's like, you know what? Either they're telling the truth or they're not. If they're not, we'll deal with it when we get there. And if they are telling the truth, then it's better for everybody. Which again, I'm so glad he does that, because it would have been so frustrating if we'd had another Flechette Parian moment where it's like, or Amy moment as well, where they're like, I can't work with you. I'm a good guy. You're a bad guy. Wham, wham, wham. And Grace kind of starts down that road, and Tecton's like, nah, we just got to do what we got to do, Grace. You don't have to get on board if you don't want to. You can leave.
Yeah.
Is Tecton the leader? I think he is, right?
So.
Yeah, I think he's the leader.
That was my assumption, at least.
Yes.
Tecton stands on business.
Thank you, Jacob.
Oh no.
I'm gonna keep saying it. And technically, yeah, and I do think it's, at least my understanding is, it's implied that Wanton might still live. He just has to be able to hold his form for like 15 minutes or so, but he's never held it that long.
Yeah. He has to hold it until the team can get there to potentially clear up the mess. But yeah, it's that he hasn't been able to like hold the form for that long before. Like, he's tried, but we don't know. So like, leaving him here is very much of like a, well, who knows?
Yeah. It's scary.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Yeah, we better come back to him. Like, we better come back to him in the next arc, because I really want to know if he made it, and I really hope he does. I really like these wards. They're very cool.
Yeah. All right. Interlude.
Let's see here.
We're on donation interlude 3.
Number 3. So for this next interlude, we are seeing the story from the perspective of Jessica Yamada, who is a therapist. Jessica meets with a bunch of different people in this interlude. She has meetings with Victoria, which we love seeing Victoria again. Make sure that she's doing somewhat okay. Sveta, Clockblocker, Weld, Flechette, Kidwin, Vista, and finally Eidolon. There's a bunch of different stories that all kind of intersect here, but all told from Jessica's point of view.
Okay, can I say something real quick before anybody else says?
No.
I have a guess. Nope. Hannah, stop it.
No, go ahead.
My guess, Alan, this was your favorite part of this whole arc.
So technically, the Taylor Clockblocker conversation is my favorite.
But
right behind it, I have hell yeah, Miss Yamada. I could do this all day.
That's because I knew you've talked so much about how you love the mundane in these like big universes. I'm like, Alan would just die for a whole novel from Jessica Yamada's perspective.
Also, I notoriously, Alan fucking loves Jessica Yamada. Like, fucking loves her.
Well,
like, I know this.
Okay, this isn't... Okay, number one, because, just healthy conversation.
Right.
Number 2, like, she interacts in the most interesting ways with people. Like, because,
It's therapy.
We do stan a mentally well queen.
We do. We really do.
Honestly, she's getting overworked. She needs to take better care of herself. And I get it. There's a lot going on because everybody needs her. But, she needs to take care of herself first before she can take care of others. I think we see that in this chapter.
In my mind, I know these are all like teenagers and young adults, so it's probably a pretty normal looking room. But in my mind, Eidolon is sitting in like a much smaller chair and like just walks into the room. He's like holding a teddy bear,
Yes.
He just like sits down. His knees are too high.
Yeah, exactly.
We get to see Sveta. We get to see Sveta.
Yeah.
And we also learn, as I finally did later on in like my second read through of this, that Sveta and Matryoshka are not the same person.
Not the same person. Because we see Matryoshka later on in this arc.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this last time we recorded.
The next. Is it this one? I thought it was the next one. Maybe
the next
interlude. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, they're different people.
They're very similar. One clearly much more volatile than the other, but they have incredibly similar.
They're both ribbony bodies that and both with, I'll just say, very Russian names. So
yeah.
Also known as her code name being Garrett or Garrot.
Yeah.
For Garrot Wire is just wild as well.
Yeah.
But it makes sense because Jessica goes in the suit and immediately gets strangled.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, I'm sorry, am I hurting you? She's like, no, it's fine. It's supposed to do that. Because if I tell her, she'll squeeze harder.
Yeah, she'll freak the fuck out.
Oh, yeah. I love Sveta. Man.
Poor thing. Just, it's just such an interesting thing. So Sveta is an interesting character, right? Just physically is one of those, again, really fascinating side characters. Basically just a face floating on top of a ton of like razor sharp black tentacles.
Isn't it a mask? I don't think
it looks like a mask. It looks like a mask, but I think she describes it as looking like a mask because I think that's what she is. Like she's one of the Case 53s whose body got altered by Cauldron. And it's just her face, and that's all that's left of her as a human, basically, or as a human body, right?
Yeah. She's all tentacly.
Yeah, she's essentially in my head, she's a black, octopus goo-like thing, and the tentacles are constantly like fluctuating and snapping out, and she just like requires tension. You treat her almost, it's gonna sound weird, but you treat her almost like a heavily autistic child when you're talking about like weighted blankets and textures and like pressure for things. She needs literally to grab things and to have like extreme tension on it to feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to constantly be snapping and things like that.
Oh. And it seems like it takes her a lot of effort to relax.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Just to relax enough to like, whippersnapper across the room to like her little cat tree and hang out over there for a bit.
But maybe her and Swan Lake Victoria can become friends.
Yeah, I like that.
Is she still
idea.
Swan Lake?
Well,
is that what we're calling her?
I mean, the ugly duckling also works, but like,
well, it described her as having a swan-like neck, so
I was going to call her Spam, but sure.
No,
Spam. No, that was when she was in her coffin cocoon form.
Yeah,
she's a flat meat brick.
She's taken form. Swan Lake. I like Swan Lake. Swan Lake works. Very Black Swan vibes, I guess.
She's still a pile, isn't she?
Well, she's a formed-ish pile, right?
Well, yeah, because it said that Amy said, like, she's like, I tried to put her back together, but then I kept making mistakes, and now she's like in a vaguely human shape, but with a neck that's too long and distorted limbs.
The order of abomination, we'll call it, was she got acided, so normal to acid. So she's very messed up like that. Then she gets stuck in the stasis crystal
cocoon thing.
Yeah, where she's still human, like she's still the burnt human on the inside, and the cocoon thing is more to protect her while she's getting cooked on in there.
Right.
And finally, you have her getting worked on, which went horribly wrong and resulted in multiple arms, legs,
And the swan neck,
and she is a pile. She has not changed from the pile yet.
She's just goopy with limbs.
She is big goop. She looks like, I imagine if y'all have seen Made in Abyss, she gives off strong, Mimi vibes. You know what I'm talking about? It's not Mimi.
I do not know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, now that's some psychological.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, though.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that creature.
What is this? How can they
If you want to participate, go to Google. Look up Mitty from, what was it?
Mitty, Mitty from Made in Abyss. It is an anime in which people are traveling down into the earth, and the further you go, the crazier shit gets. You can't really go back up. At a certain point, if you go back up, you'll just die. So your body basically deforms itself. There is a certain spoilers, by the way, for the show. There is a certain set of much like Case 53's experimentations that are happening to see what happens to a body when it is viciously thrust upwards, instead of going downwards. And there's someone who gets deformed pretty badly, and she's just kind of a mindless, drooling blob. It's not great. It's very traumatic. The show's phenomenal if anyone's interested in watching it. But yeah, no, Mitty is,
lovely.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Great. Good job.
Do we all look at the picture?
Yeah. The picture's horrifying.
Yeah. That used to be human.
That used to be a person. Yeah.
So you get the vibe, and I imagine that, but multiple limbs
with a swan neck. Solid.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Mhm.
Or Victoria. Jesus. No wonder she needs therapy.
Really?
Yeah, which Lord knows, with the blinking, what is it? Butterfly in the, what is that movie? Butterfly in the Bell Jar or something like that. Butterfly in the Diving Bell. Yeah, with her butterfly in the diving bell ass blinking to communicate. Man. Whew.
Yeah, the having to go through and blink for the letters to spell out words like that is, God, poor Victoria. Like when we think back to when we first met her and, her in an alley throwing villains and cars around, and
good
then
old,
the bank
good old
heist,
times where you could just kick dumpsters into white supremacists, and now we're left with this.
Yeah, it's very upsetting. Yeah, this one
as
hurt.
it should be.
Yeah,
it really makes, when we're spelling it out like this, Eidolon's gotta grow the fuck up.
For real.
We're going through just the
most
traumatic experiences you can imagine. And then Eidolon's like, I'm just not as strong as I want to be.
What a big potato
this
man.
Little girl said something and it really hurt my feelings.
Yeah. Jeez.
I don't feel like a big man anymore.
I feel like, I don't know why, I'm just thinking back to like Toy Story with Buzz. 1 minute you're roaming the galaxy, and then you're sucking down Darjeeling, and just like he's just so out of it, and just doesn't care anymore.
Mrs. Nesbit moment.
Mrs. Nesbit, yeah, thank you. That's what it is.
Gosh.
I do actually really like his conversation, but
so do I. Yeah.
Compared to the rest, it's
it's kind of pathetic compared to what everyone else is dealing with. But compare, and like obviously we're seeing this from Jessica Yamada's perspective, but like who's got problems and who doesn't have problems, and like Victoria and Sveta fall into that category of like they have lots of problems and they need lots of help. Blocker, Weld, Flechette, Kidwin, Vista, like they all have like decent family situation, decent work situation. Like they have people who care about them, who are like actively, in their lives. They have limbs that work,
big one.
And then, but at the same time, like all of their problems, like even if they, in comparison to like Victoria seem minor, like they're still important to Jessica. And I like that. I like that we're still seeing this from her perspective, is like, as a therapist, like she's seen the whole range of it. And to her, it's still important regardless if it is like is it Clock Blocker or is it Kid Win who's basically, I think it's Kid Win. He basically kicks his feet up and he's like, I don't really need this. But her response is still like, I understand. That's totally fine. I'm here if you want to talk. Like, because she's a good fucking therapist. Like, even with Eidolon's big crybabiness, like, she's still a good therapist. She'll listen and, like, offer excellent advice, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's a good perspective to tell kind of all of these stories from.
Yeah.
She nails it.
Or perhaps Wild Bill nails it. Ow, ow!
The barking.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be a bark. I'm tired. It's fine.
We do got a bit more. Let's go ahead and keep moving. We do have.
I don't. I'll tell you right now, and this isn't a boring thing. This is just I have no notes for the next 2 chapters.
There, I mean,
Okay.
we're getting into the fighting here. So 18.7, chapter 7, the group watches Eidolon face off against Noelle. She makes more clones. Taylor has the realization that Noelle is spitting out killer bugs that she unfortunately cannot control, which is hugely problematic. Chapter 8, Taylor tries to reason with some of the like regular people clones that have been spit back out, and clearly that's just not going well.
Dumbass.
So yeah, some backup arrives for both sides of the conflict. Trickster pulls a Yui and betrays the Undersiders, and Taylor gets eaten.
No.
Yeah, not fun.
Big cliffhanger.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Which we don't resolve. The next 2 chapters are interludes, so we don't find out what happens to Taylor until next arc. So 2 weeks from now, listeners.
Oof. I really like the description of Eidolon and Noelle fighting.
Me too.
Yeah, it's a fun fight. The gravity powers.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I love
cool.
the gravity powers. That's very fun.
And yeah, it turns out that Tecton really was needed because he's the one who helps create that antlion pit that they described to try to keep her down.
Yeah.
And it's still not enough to stop her.
Yeah, it's crazy how strong she is.
Well, she starts spitting bodies to like walk back on to get
that was gross.
Keep sliding down
Gross
how you get traction by vomiting up human, body clones? Like, ooh.
Oof.
Gross.
I like how I do like how Lisa was trying to be encouraging to Taylor after the killer bugs came out. Like, well, don't blame yourself. She could make copies. There's bugs everywhere. And Taylor's like, I control all of the bugs.
This was my fault.
Well, you didn't give her like the deadly ones, though, right?
Yeah.
I was like,
she's like,
the
you mean
only
the
ones
black
that are
widows
useful.
and the hornets?
Yeah.
Yeah. You mean the useful ones? Of course. Yeah. Those are the only ones that are out there.
I'm a bug girl. What did you expect for me to do?
And I'm blind. I've got to be putting bugs on everything in order to see it.
Jesus, Taylor. This is why I'm so over it. Because I'm like, I just need her to have her eyes back, please.
Gosh, could she just stop being disabled for like a second?
Oh god. Clipping that.
No.
Clipping it.
No, that is not what I'm saying, please.
Clipping it and posting it.
No.
Definitely the out of context.
That's going on at the soundboard. Could you stop being disabled for a second?
Jesus. Y'all know.
I mean, it's such a gross fight, but I do love it. I do love how Noelle and Eidolon are having a conversation. And at first, Taylor's trying to get it, and you think, oh, maybe this is a real conversation, right? Like, is Eidolon actually going to be able to convince Noelle to stop? But then Taylor just realizes, oh no, they're both just setting up, right? Eidolon's waiting for his powers to charge up, and Noelle is hoping that this, the evil leet can shoot him, right?
Yeah.
Evil leet, it warped his powers so that it actually works.
Yeah.
An actual functional leet.
My evil twin.
Oh, and another great Imp and Gru moment too.
I know. Yeah.
Where they're like, you got to get Imp out of there, and everybody's like, what?
Where is she?
That's the last thing you need a bunch of evil clones running around.
Oh my gosh.
God. Imagine
you just
if they
be
got
like,
a hold
why
of
am
him.
I so sore?
Yeah.
Brian's just over here. Why does my dick feel like it's been kicked multiple times?
Yeah. We've talked about it before a little bit with that kind of like Gru is like the big brother that's trying to take care of the little sister, and Imp is like, fuck you, and disappears. I love that so much. That like older sibling, younger sibling dynamic is just the absolute best. Of course, like it doesn't work out very well here, but I still love it every time it happens. Funny. Where Gru's like, God damn it, like where is she?
Yep.
It's very fun. It's very fun.
I do also love Taylor's attempted conversation with the clones.
Yeah.
It was just making me laugh. Like it's very like old Crocodile Hunter where you're like, why you can't, it's an alligator. Why are you talking to it? What do you think
she's
it's
a good looking
Shayla.
Oh, what a beaut.
What a beaut.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the thing. But did he win? You know? He caught all those crocodiles, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to them.
True. That's true.
Who's to say the talking didn't help?
Amen.
It did.
It did. That's true. It's a good point. Yeah. Taylor just takes a moment to be like, let's perform some experiments here. Why are you the way you are?
Why are you evil?
Yeah.
Well, you see, I got
sucked
up into this lady's stomach, got turned around, and now I'm just here and want to kill.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Can't say much else.
I love her response to it. So like he's like, I want to kill everything. And she's like, okay, so once you kill everything, then what? And he's like, then I'm going to burn the school to the ground. She's like, cool. So after you do that, then what? I'm going to kill everybody in the school. Okay, solid. What about that? I'm going to kill my whole family and burn down the house, and especially the cats. Like, okay, solid. So after you've done all of those things, what next? I'm going to kill everybody in the city. Like, she's like, cool. Yeah. Then what? Like, Jesus, like, do you not grasp that he is on a murdering spree, and also he is not human? Like, he is a weird clone thing. Like,
Also, Taylor, if you're so conflicted, because she's has that kind of internal struggle where like, they're not human. It's like, well, probably don't try to have a conversation with them.
Right.
Probably going to help, a little bit.
Distance yourself from that.
Yeah. You're going to run into a clone that like gives you an answer that you don't feel comfortable with. And then you're not going to kill them because you're like, well, that one clone, like.
Imagine the clone turns around and is just like, oh man, I got to tell you, like, this is rough. Life's hard, man. Just
she would have been like, it's okay.
Out here.
We're gonna save you.
And then
it's fine.
he like tries to approach him, put the hand on the shoulder, and the clone's just like, I just can't kill him fast enough. It's so hard.
Damn it. Fuck. Oh God.
Yeah. Just that'd be Taylor's new irrational obsession. Like I have to help this one clone.
We got Dinah home.
Why?
Our fixation has shifted to the clones now. Gosh.
What hostage situation trigger event did you have that makes you just required to help these lost souls?
Yeah. I mean, I get like if Hannah was in Taylor's shoes, like Hannah would not, I would be asking myself the same question. Like I would also have a hard time like just cutting people down.
She's young and she wants to be a good guy still.
Yeah. Yeah. She's wrestling. She's wrestling.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
It is a nice
do you know who would I love to get in a headlock?
God damn it.
What?
All five of you said. One at a time. One more time.
I remember now.
I was just going to say.
Oh my God.
No. Alex, shut the fuck up.
Go for it, Nick.
Mine's very brief. I was just going to say it's a nice tie into the beginning where Ballistic says, you guys have no idea what you're talking about. When they're like, maybe we shouldn't kill Noelle. And he's like, no, you got to kill that bitch.
Right. Exactly.
That's true.
Okay, Ellen?
Yeah, no. I would love to put Trickster in a headlock and beat the shit out of him because now I remember why I fucking hated Trickster the entire first 2 read-throughs, and we're just like, what a piece of shit the whole time. Which is funny because, read through 1, I just remember hating him. Up to this, and this was just par for the course. And then in 2, I was like, yeah, because he's a piece of shit. And then 3, for this read through, I was just like, oh, actually, you know what? He's kind of cool. And then we hit this, and I went, nah, I fucking hate his ass. What? What?
Yeah.
What a piece of shit.
I'm not convinced.
I still like him.
I still like Trickster,
No.
yeah.
Straight to jail. Straight to jail.
Straight to jail.
Yeah, I mean,
I like him here because, again, we kind of mentioned it before. If Armsmaster was here, he'd be like, all right, Undersiders, sorry. I'll line up. And that's kind of what Trickster's doing. He's just giving Noelle what she wants. And I think if reads like there's part of it, like he still wants to save her.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know how. Like nobody knows how.
No one knows how.
I think the first time I read through, and maybe this is something from later on, but in my head, when he did this moment, my original thought was he betrayed the Undersiders because fuck them, I'm with Noelle all the way, ride or die. And this time when I read it, I went, oh, no, he's doing the negotiation, which was, I give you the Undersiders, I fuck off and die.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I realized that until this read through, that he's not doing it because he's ride or die Noelle. He's doing it because partly fuck the Undersiders, but because he's trying to get her to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that, but he also does give them. He gives Noelle some of the tricks, some of the travelers too, right? Or
Does
no?
he? Oh my god!
I think so.
He gives her Gru, and then he gives her Taylor, and somebody
Regent.
else,
Regent.
and Regent.
Oh, and
that's
Regent.
right.
Okay, yeah.
Regent's
so I guess not.
First,
Oh no, he's moving the travelers out of the way. That's what.
Yeah,
it was.
he's swapping the travelers.
Mhm.
Yeah, because
Undersiders.
they all come in and they go Ballistic shoots her a couple of times. She's fine. And Sundancer says, "Look, we all agreed. We agreed. I'm going to have to kill you now. I'm going to burn you up." And then that's when Trickster's like, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe we just give him the Undersiders. But knowing that nobody else on his team is with that plan, as predicted once
Gets
again
him out
by
of the way.
Ballistic, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's
God,
right.
if I were Ballistic and I got my hands on him, I'd fucking launch him into the sun.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, at
His
this
ass
point,
would be gone.
Yeah, Ballistic shows a lot of restraint in this entire story for someone with his power set. Just
I feel like that might still be even though he doesn't want to, he's very pro murder Noelle. In the end, these were still his friends.
Yeah.
There's got to be some lingering attachments that are still there, in his mind, in all of their minds, the understanding that well, Noelle isn't Noelle anymore. Noelle died that day in Madison, and you can kind of tell yourself that okay, cool, fine. And Trickster's always been a dick, but he was my friend once. And so I imagine that those ties are still there, even, maybe cut a lot, but maybe not cut completely. So the tough choice of being well, where am I supposed to stand in all of this? Trying to convince yourself even that's well, we'll take out Noelle because it's not really her, and then we'll figure it out, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they've stayed committed as a group this whole time. That says something.
Yeah, true. I think it's been partially a matter of, in a lot of their minds, of necessity.
Yeah, for sure.
What with of course the belief that if the PRT gets their hands on them, they'll isolate them because of the quarantine. They're still looking for a way to get home, although they're not sure exactly what that would look like or what they would do even when they get there. And I think it's just been a matter of, necessity. These are the people I need around me to survive. Right. I would not survive in this world without them. But like Ballistic says, he says something early on about he was our leader and he was doing what he thought was best. And he still is, but it's gotten to the point now where what he thinks are good decisions are not good decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think I disagree a little bit, Alan. I know that I think you said like, he's trying to give Noelle the Undersiders as the deal, get her to go away. I do think there is still a bit of that commitment to Noelle that like
I think so too.
I think that's part of what the Simmerg or Simmerf put into his head is this ultra commitment to Noelle at all costs. And, like we find out later in the interlude, what the Simmerf put into Noelle's head was all of her self insecurities. For Trickster, I think it was this insane obsession with needing to fix or to make Noelle okay or to protect her, which he kind of showed back when they were dating with his being like, hey, I think we can get through this, even though she didn't really want to date him in a way. I don't know. It's very complex, of course, and that's part of why I do like Trickster as a character. Obviously not as a person.
Mm-hmm.
As a person, he is something else.
Yeah.
Man, all right, we got one hell of a cliffhanger ending.
We really do.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
2 more interludes.
Yeah, so
like I said, she ate.
She ate.
Did. So the next interlude is another donation interlude, and it follows Faultline and Faultline's crew as they hunt for clues about Cauldron. We get a little bit of an insight into their group's dynamics, a little bit, and they go back to Madison looking for clues, meet up with some other people, and come back to the hotel. They get a call. Faultline gets a call from Tattletale, and as a hire, basically, come work for me. And as she goes back upstairs, finds out that a shadowy stranger gives them a warning. A stranger in a fedora gives them a warning to stop looking into Cauldron.
We've talked
No
about
powers.
before.
Took them all out in seconds.
Well, we don't know that she has no powers. I don't.
Well, that's their words.
Yeah.
Oh,
Did
they say that?
Russian?
Okay.
Did she use
Potential use
powers?
of
Like
powers.
no. She basically just hand to hand
Took us all out. Super fucking
got
fast.
everybody to use
We
their
don't really
powers
know
against
what
each other
happened.
and whatnot.
Which I've talked before about how many things I don't remember from this book. I do remember her. As soon as she popped in, I was like, wait, no, I remember her. And I remember her whole backstory too. Very fun. Which is shocking that of all the things that I would remember.
Right. What you choose to remember. Yeah, exactly.
Right. My brain's like, we're going to file that one away forever. But math, nah, you don't need that.
I do love though, they go to Madison, right? So this is of all of the interludes, this one feels the most directly connected. And I think I guess Jessica Yamada's is pretty connected as well. But this one feels even more connected. And of course, part of that is like with Tattletale calling and saying, hey, I need your help with something. I think it's, in the moment of when everything's happening. And yeah, so it feels very connected because they go back to Madison. They meet Matryoshka. They invite her to join their crew. Break into this quarantine. And the quarantine is a lot crazier. I mean, for the traveler's sake, it's a good thing they got out, right? Because it is wild in there.
Yeah, golly. They don't really talk about it much, but it seems like there's some really weird shit going on in there. Like some real monster shit.
Well, yeah, because there are still monsters roaming around that the Simmer brought in.
Right.
And on top of that, and on top of that, there's this basically it's been turned into again like a post-apocalyptic wasteland because the whole city's been walled off. Nobody's allowed to leave. Nobody's allowed in. No food or supplies are getting in. It's all just it's Mad Max up in there.
Yeah. Gregor and Shamrock. Fucking cutest thing ever. It makes me so happy. Gregor deserves all of the fucking best, and I don't know Shamrock very well, but she seems very nice. Gregor deserves the best, and I'm very happy for him.
I do love how Fault Line's whole crew, despite the fact that they are gross visibly for the most part, do seem to be like the most well-adjusted of all of the groups we meet, oddly enough.
Yeah. They figured out they've got systems for their everything.
Or they're crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they just
I'd say so, yeah.
Of all the teams I'd want to be a part of, it's like they're the first pick.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
They look out for each other. They're all on the same page. Like, yeah, just
for sure.
They're good people.
Except Nick. Nick wants to be on Kaiser's team.
Yeah,
Hey,
Right.
no, I don't want to be.
Kaiser stand.
Don't put that out there into the universe.
Okay, so Kaiser's dead now. Which side do you pick, Nick? Are you going with
You're
the
either
pure or the
pure?
chosen?
Well, the chosen are screwed over now.
The
Okay,
pure.
so
Got it.
Here.
That makes sense.
By default.
Wait. No. Wait. To see my internet reputation
Yeah, I was
I
plummeting.
think the word you
immediately.
were looking for was 9999.
Ironic coming from you of all people.
Wow.
Alan's German, not a Nazi. I just want to clarify.
I was about to say, you're gonna have to specify that one.
It was those darned Austrians, and you know it.
Oh, God.
Damn it, Alan. No, not helping
damn
your
it.
cause.
Don't double down. How many times have I told you?
You always double down.
No, you
Never
never
deny.
double down.
You
How
never
many
deny.
times?
You always deny and redirect.
Oh, gosh.
What would Tom Brady do?
What an absolute fucking mess. Okay, well.
Anyway,
I'm the victim here.
I do love. I do.
All right.
It's getting out of hand.
I'm so tired.
One more
Interlude.
Well, we're so close.
One more.
So
we have-
close.
Do we have any other comments about this one before I get into the final and
Don't
what
ask.
what is
Don't
the
No,
most important-
don't ask, Hannah. Just move on.
Okay. All right. The final interlude.
Before we get there, I have one last thing.
I tried so hard. I can't. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Just
Go
a
ahead.
little
Go
thing. See, my things at least are small, Hannah.
Oh, you
See-
actually did have one.
Alan,
Oh, I thought that
unlike
was...
me, Alan has many long, hard things to get through. Mine are just, soft, squishy, easy.
Okay.
Your point?
Anyways,
I think he was
so
describing his point.
Tattletale tells Faultline
Damn it, Ellen.
just straight up, I know how Labyrinth's power works better than you.
Oh yeah, I did like that.
I did
Yeah.
I just like that.
Why
That's very
And,
funny.
insufferable?
and Faultline's just like, alrighty then. But of course, I mean, and I hope I'm not importing future knowledge, but the whole thing that she's trying to do is she is trying to find a way to get the travelers back home, is what it
Mhm.
sounds like to me. And that's why
No,
she
I
calls
got that.
Faultline, right? Yeah, okay.
I got that. I got
Oh.
that.
Yeah,
vibe.
she also mentioned something about Vista as well when talking about like if we could like maybe she, I can't remember if it's in here, but like maybe she was thinking Noelle could use. If Noelle got her hands on Vista, she could maybe use her spatial powers to somehow force a way back. And maybe that's why she went after Vista, not just because of the power level, but specifically because of the power. And I think Tattletale realized that and is looking for space warpers.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. I honestly had not even thought about that. I think mentally I just assumed that like she had something in mind and was like, yeah, let's get fault lines people here. I had not at all connected those two things together, but that's very cool.
I think it's all about trying to find a way to get the travelers back to where they belong. Maybe a
Get
way to
them the
deal with Noelle.
fuck out of here.
Maybe a way to deal with Noelle, but I think more. I get the sense that Tattletale is thinking further ahead in time.
Yeah.
Than just dealing with Noelle.
Right.
So, anyways, just my thoughts.
Mhm.
We
I mean,
can move
once
on
you've
now, Hannah.
once you've dealt with the travel, no, I'm on this train now. Once you've dealt with the travelers, that's one less part of the pie to be dealt up of Brockton Bay. You know,
True.
like if we were to take care of Noelle, Noelle's dealt with. You still have the travelers. Like, what the fuck do we do with the travelers? Like, well, send them the fuck home. Earth Aleph can deal with them, and we now have Brockton Bay to ourselves. Like, why the fuck
Man,
not?
They would be gods back on Earth
They
Aleph.
really would.
They'd be going through those comic book looking motherfuckers like tissue paper.
Anyways.
Yeah. Okay. The final interlude is the Echidna interlude. We kind of have this back and forth between Noelle and her memories that the Echidna, the monster side of her, is kind of feeding her while it goes berserk. And so during this interlude, we kind of get the Noelle side and we get the Echidna monster side. She organizing her team of gamers, Echidna orchestrating her battle against the caves.
Which is something just quickly on that. It got mentioned back in the Theo or the Justin interlude. But one of the theories that they bring up and that they highlight is the theory of sentient powers. That there's like some sort of sentience to them. And in this case, Noelle has a very sentient echidna power, whether that's a split off of her that kind of manages the power in some way that she can't control. How that works with people who don't have, very freakish powers like Noelle does. How that interacts. Is that like a left brain, right brain situation? Do where one is like you have a master slave system where the one just kind of is forced to do what the other tells it to, but if given free reign, would essentially be doing what Noelle's doing. The whole what are those old brain split experiments where they like cut the corpus callosum and then people wake up in the night to find their like right hand trying to strangle them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Those are super interesting.
So I wonder if, there's something to do with how powers have some sort of sentience like that. Whether that's just, it taking over a part of the brain and sectioning it off or something like that.
Yeah, that does seem to be kind of the implication of this, right? And Noelle even says that. She says, like, she gets the sense that the power is almost angry because it's like, this power wasn't meant for you and you've stolen it, is sort of the feeling she gets.
Yeah.
And of course, then we get the realization, why did she only take half? Well, part of it was because, of course, she was being manipulated by the Simurf to focus on all of her insecurities, all of her bodily issues, which we come to find out was an eating disorder.
Yeah.
And just again, how perverse and twisted
Yeah. I
all
was
of this
thinking about
is.
this.
Oh,
Because the whole
With
thing
all
about her
throwing
power
up
is
all the
binging and purging.
people.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. Like, you swallow things and you spit them back out, and that's how your power works. Like, that is so fucking twisted.
There's a mention, I want to say, I think it's her remembering the breakup between her and Trickster.
yeah, which we've seen before from
Yeah, which
Trickster's
we've
side.
seen before,
Yeah.
but this time from her perspective. The concept of like relationships and fairness, I always find very interesting because, it's people, relationships don't, as long as it's kind of agreed upon, relationships don't have to be a fair trade. Like, in my mind, there sometimes if you cannot give 100%. And in this case, like Noelle can't. Like there's a lot that she just can't do because she's not comfortable with and yada yada. And she's like, I don't want, I would rather break this off than not be able to give 100% to this for Trickster. And I was just thinking, I was like, well, the relationships are, wide ranging, very varied, and the percentages of each side are not always equal in a variety of manners. Like that's, the negotiating process of every relationship ever.
Yeah, and the idea that, like, relationships don't stay the same. Like, you have sides that fluctuate where you have one side that carries more of the burden at different times in the relationship. But, like, to her, the idea that, like, she doesn't think that it's she doesn't see herself as worth it. So the fact that Kraus is like, "Oh, I think we're doing great. Like, I think we're good." In her mind, she's like, "You're making all of these concessions for me, and I am not worth it." And that is that hurts. That one hurts. Gosh.
Yeah.
Also, there's a couple weird things in this because you narrowed it down. We're pretty sure it at least involves, if not directly, is an eating disorder of some kind. But she's got two things that she says. One is she mentions the disease at work and recovery.
She talks about
And
recovery a lot. Yeah.
yeah, which yeah, I was like, okay, that's interesting. I mean, I guess some people refer to, eating disorders as disease. I mean, they're not. But
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
I haven't heard it phrased like that when people talk about them usually. And then she said, like, oh, if only I could basically tell him what it is, if I could just say the 5 words. And I was like racking my head, like,
I have
what
an eating disorder.
I put, I have an eating
If only we
disorder.
knew.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I feel like it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, because I was like, I assume that's what it is. I also like was racking my head through like every other problem somebody could have. The only other one I had was I am a drug addict.
Which
I mean,
yeah, could work. Could work.
Yeah. No, I think I
because
have
there's
an eating
like left
disorder is-
signs, which we assume is self harm, and some other other stuff.
I think I think it really does play into the whole eating disorder thing because like she talks about like he should have seen how little I ate, but like when you're aware
how
of
Marissa picks on her,
right, and
notices.
Well, she notices and she also like encourages her to encourages her within in that space. But like the idea that like, well, she's incredibly aware of her food consumption, but that's not necessarily anything that Kraus would have noticed because he's not thinking about, food. Like he might have like I think he says something in the last arc where he's like, I guessed basically. I guessed what the issue is. Like he noticed it after a while. Like he figured it out. And I think doesn't Marissa one of the things that Marissa says right after freaking Noelle, sorry, forgot her name for a second. Noelle takes the potion, or maybe she comes back from the hospital in the last arc. I think Noelle says something like, I'm hungry, and Marissa gives her this look like, you are? Like,
yeah.
And at the time, like, that doesn't make sense because we're just like, I mean, okay, she just got out of surgery. Like, I guess that makes sense why she's not hungry. But like looking at it now with the idea that like, okay, well, she has an eating disorder. Food, she has a really bad relationship with food in general. The fact that she took the elixir, as she calls it, and all of a sudden she's hungry. Like that's a huge change.
Yeah. Also, sort of capped all this, there is a pretty big thing that is brought up about our worlds. We've talked about like, oh, do they have this character here, that character there? There's a lot of things that do pass back and forth. Obviously we're still running on like dollar bills and things like that, but coins, they got rid of all the coinage and they have like dollar coins in this one. So doing pretty solid there. Something they do mention here is there is a Noelle in this universe.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wait, what?
So
did they mention that? I may have missed that.
They do the last chapter. So they're like, do not engage target echidna. And Noelle is talking to Eidolon and goes, Echidna. And he goes, one of the PRT members called it. He has a daughter, a 3-year-old daughter named Noelle, and he didn't want to associate her with something like you. And she asks, what was his last name? Now, Eidolon looks at her and says Meinhard, which is Noelle's last name.
Shit. I'm not gonna lie. The last interlude I was listening to, and the audio book is a little. It gets a little, not great. So I missed that. I fucking missed that. God damn it. That's phenomenal.
So while the ages don't match up, so it's not a perfect mirror, there are still alternate people in alternate worlds.
Mhm.
Confirmed that there is a Noelle Meinhard in this world in both Aleph and Bet, which makes you start to wonder about all the other possibilities.
Yeah.
Like,
I do just have to say, hot damn, is it a small world that
For real.
the first other Noelle she ever hears about is her doppelganger.
yeah,
Like-
imagine if she ran into a fucking Alan. Like,
God
I
forbid.
mean, it would just be over at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah. Running into them left and right in this world.
For real though. There are so many Allens.
Yeah, bit of a coincidence, but still a pretty cool moment.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a pretty neat way to end. That kind of happens toward pretty much right at the end of not right at the end of the chapter, but towards the end there. It's the last bit of conversation that she has with Eidolon.
Yeah.
Couple of other notes real quick too about this little section that I really loved. I love that Regent retains enough of his conscience to sass Noelle as he's getting
Oh,
sucked
yeah.
in.
Yeah.
So good.
It's like,
Can you give me
dang it, Regent.
some good facial hair when you pop out my
Yeah.
clone? Like,
Can you give me some
God
good,
damn it, Regent.
I was like, dang it, Regent.
Oh my
good.
God, I love it. It's so sassy. There's, more
Yeah.
reasons to love.
She's about to
Regent.
spit your clone up and re-eat it so she can double deform that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just gonna look
Yeah.
like a marshmallow in a microwave, you dumb
Oh
motherfucker.
God. Gross.
All right.
I think
Yeah.
we have wrapped this one up. Any
Favorite
any parting
powers?
thoughts? Favorite
Yeah.
powers.
Okay, I do have
Man.
a favorite name.
Ooh.
Okay.
Hit me.
Young Buck.
Yeah.
Oh,
We totally
From
forgot
the
to talk about the
Southern
Texas
Ward
Heroes.
Cape. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
the
I-
Texas heroes.
I
I
fucking love it.
The name Young Buck.
Ah.
Down here in the South, we got Young Buck. I fucking love it.
Fantastic.
Although I will say I came up with a character that for a story one time that involved powers, and it's main villain, and I thought it was so cool. And what they did is they basically fired themselves like an artillery shell. And then I was like, God damn it, Young Buck is that. That is what Young Buck
Yeah,
is.
that is exactly what Young Buck is.
I love it. I love it so much.
It's awesome.
Thank you
It's
for
so good.
reminding us of that, Nick, because I
He's
Yeah, I
had
do love
basically
that
the
power, though.
biotic
It is
charge from Mass Effect is what he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I do love his power, though. It is such a fun power. And just because even Noelle describes it, like getting hit by him feels like getting shot by a cannon. And I'm like, that is. It's such a
Awesome.
simple power, but
You
it's
can
really cool.
take a shot from a cannon.
Yeah. Just a
Good
little
one.
bit of like,
That's a good
oh,
one.
that stings.
Yeah.
Ouchie.
Ooh, hot, hot, hot.
Oh my God.
There's honestly
Fantastic.
a lot of powers in this
Oh, we
arc.
got a lot of new ones here.
What was it? I don't
All the
remember
new
who else was here. I know,
wards.
I know
Yeah.
Chronicler was here. I don't remember who else.
I gotta say, I do like Tecton a
Mhm.
lot. It's
Yeah,
cool to see him
Tecton's cool.
flex.
Yeah. Mine goes out to Grace.
Yeah.
Grace pretty cool too.
It's pretty cool. Basically just a badass monk type, skill set. got the super balance, super dexterity. Can like charge up the. He's the one that can like charge up the punches, kind of. Almost
Yeah,
like
she can make like parts of her temporarily invincible or something like that, so that they hit harder. Yeah.
Yeah, I did love seeing the synergy between her and Tecton. That was super fun.
Yeah,
that.
Again, just another example of like, this is a team who knows how to work together.
Right.
That feeling
Love
was
that.
really cool.
Love
That's
that.
cool.
I guess it's a little a bit of a cop out to say Eidolon, but I did really like his fight with Noelle early on. The gravity
Yeah.
abilities hitting
cool.
against the like Vista clone powers was pretty cool. It's pretty cool to read.
I mean, he's got different powers every time you see him, so he basically is a new character every time.
Yeah, exactly. For this
fun.
part, yeah.
Too bad he
Just
can't
new answer.
change his personality.
Oh,
Yeah.
shots fired.
What a douche.
I also did like, because they talk about Eidolon needing to can only hold like 3 big powers, and he can't really hold a lot, and how does he get around that? And then Lisa kind of being like, well, maybe he uses the gravity power. Maybe he doesn't have a separate flight power. Maybe he's sort of comboing these.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man,
that's super fun.
Yeah, a lot of cool ways that you can kind of think about how Eidolon gets around his limit on powers.
Yeah. I'm gonna say Sveta. I think Sveta is really cool. All the ribbony, all the ribbons and tentacles, sort of, I guess. But she's just like, she's got so much power. This like explosive. It's strength is like very cool, but like she's also dealing with how to like control it and like learning how to breathe and deal with all of that. And I think she's really cool. She's very fun. Also, she is one of the characters that I remember, and I know her future, and I love it. So Sveta is my pick.
Nice. Any other thoughts?
I think that's everybody.
Suggestions? I like it.
My only thing that I'm gonna say about moving forward, because I don't remember this at all, is I'm worried about Theo. And I just want to know that he's okay.
We'll come back to Theo.
My boy.
Theo dies. No.
No! So sad.
Did you not know his name was like
And that's the episode, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Well, with that, I think we have wrapped this up. That was Arc 18. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yeah.
This was a long one, but we had a lot of fun. There was a lot to talk about. And I think we get a little shorter in the next arc. So, fingers crossed. We'll see. I forget how long the next arc is.
We try.
Yeah. Well, and by shorter, I mean shorter to read. Knowing us, we're going to go like an extra hour. But
yeah,
they're only 10,
no bearing.
There are only 10 chapters in Arc 19,
okay.
as opposed to the 13 that were in Arc 18.
Okay. Okay. A little bit less.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. But stick around. Arc 19 coming in a couple weeks. But next week will be Arc 18's Dissecting Worm with myself and Alan. So stick around for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And thank you to everyone here for joining in this lovely discussion that we've been having. And it's been a blast. Appreciate everybody for listening. All of our Patreon subscribers. We love you all. Thanks so much for encouraging us and joining us and commenting and posting and critiquing and correcting and all that good stuff. We really do love reading it all. So we'll see you guys next time. Michael, could you play us out?
Thank you so much for listening. Read along with us at parahumans.wordpress.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you love? What did you hate? Anything you think we missed, etc., as long as it's kind. If you'd like to get in touch, you can find us on Twitter, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and Reddit at Brocktonbaybc, or click the link in the description.